Hello and welcome to the Select Board meeting for Wednesday, April 21st. Thank you for joining us. We have a few people missing, different things going on, but that's okay. Before I open it up, I have two things I'd like to just talk about. First is a fun thing. Many of you probably know today is Michael Herbert's birthday, so happy birthday, Michael. Got to give a shout out, and if we were in person, we'd have had cake, but
happy birthday.
Virtual cake for you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The second one is a little more serious. We are all aware of the verdict that went against Derek Chauvin. We are fortunate here in Ashland that we've started to do some of the work for more diversity, equity, and inclusion, thanks to a group of residents working with our town management and also the group area that is working here in Ashland. There is still more work that needs to be done, not only here in Ashland, but in our state and in our country and around the globe. So this is just a first step, but we are looking forward to the work that needs to be done. Thank you all. We are now going to move into citizens participation. If anyone would like to say anything. Mark, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Me through now a calendar year, huh, town manager?
Another trip around the sun, Mark.
Another trip around the sun.
Oh yeah, you want to show sun? Okay. And good to you, Mr. Chairman, about that about the diversity saying and all, and no matter what is said about what happened in Minnesota and the verdict, Ashland here has got the true blue, either from past years to now, that Mr. Joe has led the way as a veteran. Notice how he's busy now. He's trying not to listen.
I'm listening.
Okay, and so it was a great verdict. I mean, I watched the whole court thing, all court through day one, and it was great. And all three was very unanimous, and good to know that diversity and justice can at least start to hold hand in hand. So as for that, that's going good. That's one thing. Last thing, to whoever delivered, wait a second, give me a couple seconds. Maybe I can get this out in time. I rethink the people who sent the bag. It must have been a fellow Italian stallion that must have been back on his saddle, no?
No, it wasn't I.
No?
We broke the town up into three parts.
Then probably one person's probably not on tonight's probably there, but he's closest to me, and he's probably not there, Mr. Shearer. He's not there tonight, is he?
Yes,
I'm
he is.
here, yeah.
Rob's sitting there.
Did you deliver it?
No, I did not. I guess we'll have to do some detective work.
Let's see. Maybe
It's not me. It's not Joe. Who does that leave?
Lee's Brandy.
It was either Brandy or Steve. I forget who.
It wasn't Steve.
Then it was Brandy who had that mark. If she's closest to you, that's what we did. We tried splitting it up so that we all delivered some to addresses closest to us. So
Like playing the game Clue.
What's that?
It's like playing the game Clue. You know, you just process of elimination.
Well, the process of elimination, if it was either Brandy or Steve, then they got lucky. They actually know where I live.
Oh boy.
The good thing, Mark,
Yeah, that's an old boy. Yeah.
having the address helped.
Having the address.
The good thing, Mark, is you received the goodie bag.
Yes.
That's
that's
right.
the important
Yes, I
thing.
did, and I what's left is because I don't have milk in the house.
There you go.
I don't have milk in the house.
Oh,
I got one of those little hoodsie things. Well, we get the Meals on Wheels, me and my dad, and so I'm saving that maybe for next Easter. If it's
and
still
I don't
good.
know. It's real chocolate, Mark. So I don't know that it'll last till next Easter. I think you're going to want to have it sooner than that.
Oh, either that, I could throw all the fesses, the coyotes having a real good time.
Okay,
And,
anything else,
All
Mark?
right.
I'm in, this to be it. I accidentally deleted the invitation to the volunteer breakfast
Oh,
and
okay.
could not get on. So I
Sorry to hear
forgot.
that.
I forgot. Plus, I was busy with my dad too.
Yeah,
Well, we missed you, Mark.
yeah. And thank you for what you do, Mark.
So I'm kind of saying thank you for the bag, and this house is still unvaccinated but waiting. And me and my dad, we have not bit each other's heads off yet. We're getting close. He's getting a bit bigger appetite. I gotta watch out.
Well, you be careful.
No, if I be careful, nobody's gonna know me. If I behave, nobody's gonna know me.
That's true.
Thank you, and I'll leave it at that.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Okay, our first appointment is at 7:15. It's a public hearing, so we cannot do that early. So I'm going to jump, if I have everyone's agreement, to the consent agenda. On our consent agenda, notification of the town manager's appointment of Matthew Balse as a full-time firefighter paramedic. Accept the regular session minutes from March 17th, 2021, and our retreat from April 10th, 2021. Accept the donation in the amount of $1,000 for the food pantry. Accept the donation from the Boston Food Bank of $240 gift certificates to Shaw's and Star Market, and an appointment to the Council on Aging that for Pat McHale and Lisa Ugliolaro with a term that expires on 8/31/2022. If I can have such a motion?
Motion
Madam
to
Chair, if I
approve
may,
as
before
accepted.
we, I do have a quick change on the minutes
Okay.
that we're going to approve.
This-
In my
Well, then hold-
report.
Then let's pull them out.
Okay,
So consent agenda minus the minutes as presented.
So which set of minutes, Joe?
Which ones, Joe?
it was on my.
March
Sure, I'm
17th or
alright.
April 10th. There was one set of minutes that Susan did pull.
Okay, I believe it was the April 10th one.
Okay,
April 10th.
so consent agenda minus the April 10th
So a
meeting.
motion to approve as presented minus the one set of minutes.
If I can get a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Rob. We'll do a roll call vote. Mignani,
Aye,
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shearer,
Aye.
and Greaves. Aye. So that's 4-0-1, 4-1-0. No, 4-0-1 because one's missing.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that very often. So what was the change, Joe, for the April 10th?
on the board reports, in my report, I had talked about the passing of Lieutenant Jack Davino, and the spelling of the last name, it was Darin. So it came out as Darren, but his last name is Doveno. So I just want to make sure it's correct for the record, that's all.
Okay. Okay,
Other than that, everything was fine.
Okay.
okay.
Good. A motion to approve the April 10th minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Mignani,
Aye,
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shearer,
Aye.
and Greaves. Aye. So that's 4-0-1 with Brandy being out. So that is our consent agenda. It is 7:10.
Madam Chair, can I just ask one question about some of the items to Michael?
Sure.
Does he care to talk a little bit about the new firefighter appointment and this young person that I presume he's young, I don't know. Just tell us a little bit about him and how he came to be selected.
Nice thorough resume. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
very good resume.
yeah, we had a number of candidates that we interviewed, and this is the one that emerged. We had a panel, of course, that interviewed a number of people, and so this is the candidate that came out on top. I probably could have gotten a lot more information about the process and everything if I'd known that we were going to have this discussion.
Oh, it's just whatever you care to say about it.
Yeah.
I think it's just an important event.
Yeah, and we will, like we usually do, each time we hire like a group of firefighters, we'll bring them in or actually bring them in virtually and let them introduce themselves to the community. Same thing with our police officers and our department heads. So you'll get a chance to get to know them firsthand.
Great, thank you.
How do we steal them from Holliston?
You know what? We actually have a really good team, and they're a call department.
Yeah, Holliston is not full-time,
No, I
Oh,
know.
interesting.
so,
How do they do that? In this day and age, I don't
They depend on a lot of other communities.
right,
know.
Mhm.
right,
So
yep.
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Okay. We have 3 minutes, but it's going to take us a little bit to get into this. So I'm going to start us, and then I'm sure we'll be well past 7:15 by the time we get through this. I have a lot to read. Okay, open a public hearing. I hereby open the public hearing for the taking of a permanent easement in Lot 10-.0 of Independence Lane, formerly known as WACA Drive, for the installation, construction, and maintenance of a water booster pump station as authorized by Article 10 of the December 9th, 2020 special town meeting. Said notices having been sent by this board on March of 2020 to the following owners, all members of the Oregon Heights Owners Association, the current owner of record for Lot 10-0, Independence Lane, Ashland, Mass. And I've been told, Michael, verify, I have to read all these names.
Oh,
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do. Okay,
Oh my goodness.
here we go. Sarish Babu Shanapa and Sarish Savitha, 7 Independence Lane. Ayanasa A. and Catherine J. Papayanopoulos, 11 Independence Lane.
Good job.
Quing Peng, I did practice some of these, and
wow.
and Q Jingping, 15 Independence Lane. Pragby Cinch, 16 Independence Lane. Cameron Maboob and Manaz Cameron, 17 Independence Lane. Stefano Saguzin and Marilena Nucio, 20 Independence Lane. Rajesh and Itumathi Padmanabam, 23 Independence Lane. Linda J. Cotter, 24 Independence Lane. Matthew F. and Carolyn M. Fertig, 27 Independence Lane. Sanul and Sonia Kadmina Diwan, 28 Independence Lane. Khalid Jalil and Bathula Fatima, 31 Independence Lane. James A. Klepper and Minette Schiffman, 32 Independence Lane. Praveen K. and Minal Garg, 35 Independence Lane. Matthew and Margarita Kelly, 36 Independence Lane. Sridhar and Jayalaxmi Kulkarni, 39 Independence Lane. Matthew D. and Kelly R. Sheridan, 40 Independence Lane. Shangtao Zhu, 43 Independence Lane. Bijendar Mal and Sarita Malik, 44 Independence Lane. David C. and Bridget Vento, 48 Independence Lane. We're getting there. Bruce R. Laquadera and Eileen T. Allison, 42 Independence Lane. Arvinda S. Akamanavar and Swati A. Arvind, 56 Independence Lane. Young Hao Lin and Su Fan Kwok, 57 Independence Lane. Matthew R. and Rebecca L. Strandberg, 60 Independence Lane. Anthony V. and Lisa M. Ugliarlo, 61 Independence Lane. Keith A. White and Teresa A. Scavone, 65 Independence Lane. Nirav Dalal and Kiat Trivedi, 66 Independence Lane. Alan J. and Meredith L. Rosoff, 69 Independence Lane. Peter P. and Denise M. Graham, 72 Independence Lane. Riku Peng and Zhu Haxin, 73 Independence Lane. Matt J. Bon and Rachel Prontil Bon, 79 Independence Lane. Brian Robert and Jacqueline Marisol Herrera, 80 Independence Lane. Simeon and Maria S. Cordelidis, 84 Independence Lane. Vivian A. Caballero, 88 Independence Lane. Chen Chu Chen and Yangmei Alexis Chen, 91 Independence Lane. Peter L. and Nuria Y. Navarro, 92 Independence Lane. Stephen and Catherine Ustaris, 95 Independence Lane. Paul A. Fitchner and Jeffrey M. Paradis, 96 Independence Lane. Teresa A. McHale, 99 Independence Lane. Amgad Mina and Maria W. Mina, 100 Independence Lane. Stephen T. and Heather L. Cavani, 103 Independence Lane. Bradley J. and Georgina M. Holas, 107 Independence Lane. Brian E. and Wendy B. Sayette, 115 Independence Lane. Dar and Ayanat Afroni, 119 Independence Lane. Ashma Ahmed, 131 Independence Lane. Richard and Miriam Goulden, 135 Independence Lane. Okay,
Impressed.
thank you. Okay, so Michael, if you could take us through this, and then not seeing anybody here to talk, but if we need to have people, allow people speaking in favor or against, but go ahead, Michael.
So this is in relation to the booster pump station that will be built to service the Independence Lane neighborhood as well as Robert Hill Way. If you recall, back at the town meeting in December, we sought approval to do from the homeowners association, this piece of property to put the booster pump on. Unfortunately, the homeowners association had lapsed at that time. And so that's why we needed to basically go through all these individual names and send out individual notices. And the homeowners association, I know, is actually in the process of, reforming and getting caught up with everything with the Secretary of State. But another thing that was a little bit more complicated about this is that part of it was on what's known as registered land. Another part was recorded land. So that was another complicating factor. Again, it's a little bit complex, but the purpose is really simple. It grants us a permanent easement to put the booster pump and maintain the booster pump near the Robert Hill Way property. And again, so we can also provide more water pressure to the residents of Independence Lane.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I just have one quick question, Michael. The town's not paying for this, right? This was an understanding and an agreement made with the contractor who was building that location?
That is correct. We might do a little bit of site work or site prep, but they are responsible for ordering it and building it and constructing it.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, in terms, was this the result of negotiations with the development company, or what was the to build the booster pump, or what's?
Well, actually, if you go back to the 2013 comprehensive permit, what it said was that Robert Hill Way would either be able to build their own booster pump, which would service their property only, or they would contribute $50,000 to the town building and operating a booster pump that would service the neighborhood, including Robert Hill Way. Of course, fast forward now, it was 6-7 years later, the cost of a booster pump had just basically increased exponentially to a point where we really couldn't pay for that. But we had also made a commitment to the Independence Lane neighborhood that we would address their water issues. So we did start having conversations with the developer, and it wasn't an easy conversation, but eventually we got around to, we would get the land and then they would build the booster pump on their dime.
Good. That's yeah, that seems like a good, a reasonable approach. So
Well, I do have to thank Robert Hill Way. They did not have a legal obligation to do this.
And were there other items involved in the discussions, or was it just all about?
We talked about the paving, and we also talked about maintenance.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is there anybody here speaking in favor? I don't think there's anybody. Or is there anybody speaking against? Is there any other discussion from the board? If not, if I can get a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
If I can get a second.
Second.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing, Magnani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shear,
Aye.
and Greaves, aye. And that closes the public hearing. I need a motion.
Okay, so I move that pursuant to the authority granted by General Law, Chapter 83, subsection 1, the Board of Selectmen hereby takes by eminent domain as approved by Article 10 at the December 9th, 2020 special town meeting, a permanent easement in a portion of the property located in Ashland at 0 Independence Lane, Ashland, Mass. Tax parcel ID number 03-39, shown as Lat 10 on plan entitled Subdivision Plan of Land in Ashland, GLM Engineering Consultants Incorporated, Surveyors, February 11th, 1998, and filed with the Land Registration Office for the Middlesex County Registry of Deeds, Southern District, as Plan 27039-B on certificate number 217582, sheet 3 of 3, consisting of 27,501 square feet of land, more or less, according to said plan, and also shown as parcel B on a plan entitled Definitive Subdivision of Oregon Heights Cluster Development, 45 lot single family residential subdivision in Ashland, Mass, prepared by GLM Engineering Consultants, Inc., dated August the 11th, 1997, revised October 20th, 1997, applicant A&N Realty Trust, and recorded with said registry as Plan 763, sheet 6 of 6 of 1999, consisting of 487,806 square feet of land, more or less, according to said plan. The purpose of the taking is for the installation, construction, and maintenance of a water booster pump station, and that there be no consideration awarded for this taking, as it has been provided as a gift from the owners thereof. All trees upon the land in which rights are hereby taken, as well as any structures affixed thereto or running underneath, are included in this taking.
Thank you, Steve. If I can get a second.
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Magnani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shear,
Aye.
and Greaves, aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you all. Thank you, Steve, for reading that.
Yep.
Great. So that is done. And now we can move forward and get this booster pump station built.
Right.
Great.
We need to sign this document.
Yes, we'll need to go in and sign to make it official. So if everyone can plan that.
Apologies for my late arrival. I was
Andrew, can you identify who you are and what you're talking to us about, please?
I'm Andrew Nordstrom, and I live at 224 Oak Street, and I'm in a butter to the plot of land that this booster station is apparently being built on.
Okay.
I have a couple questions related to this. Number one, I've not received any abutters notice or any information about this at all, other than a quick conversation with Doug Small about this. And so I have a couple concerns that I shared with him during a phone call. But again, I only found out about this Zoom call about 5 minutes ago from someone in town who thought I might want to participate. And
Okay.
so I have a couple questions. Number one, how come I have still not received any information about something that's going to be built abutting my property? Particularly given the fact that that my property, I believe, has the largest number of feet abutting this particular piece of property. Number two, I've not received any information about the
Okay. Andrew, are you still there?
in terms of what it's going to look like on me as a resident.
Okay, can you tell me your address again, Andrew?
Yep, 224 Oak Street.
Okay. Michael and or Doug?
So I know this is for the taking, so the notification is for, again, all the abutters. So Mr. Nordstrom, you should have had notification about this. It sounded like you did have a conversation with Doug Small about it.
I had
our
a
DPW director?
conversation with Doug Small where I advised Doug that I had not received anything. And in fact, I had asked him specifically why I hadn't received an abutters notice. And my recollection, while a bit hazy, was that because this is a public works process, that a abutters notice was not required. And I thought that sounded a bit suspect to me. But again, given the fact that it's something being built adjacent to my property where I have the largest number of linear feet abutting this piece of property, I think it's worth sharing with those that abut it.
Actually, Mr. Nordstrom, this you actually bring up a very good point. So this is just for the taking. This hearing is just for the taking of the property or the taking of an easement in which the booster pump station, on which the booster pump station would be built. There's actually going to be a ZBA hearing about the actual construction of the booster pump. And I believe it's on May 10th. Is that right, Doug?
Yes.
May 10th. You should definitely receive notification of that hearing, and you would have an ability to go there and raise a lot of your concerns in terms of what it looks like, some of the other things that you articulated.
No, I just want to stress that I'm not necessarily against this booster pump. I understand its value to the residents on Independence, and I have no objection to it holistically. Where I do have an objection, again, is I don't know what that impact is going to be to me. And I'll tell you that the neighbors who live directly next door to me, also on Oak Street, who also abut this property, have also zero information and nothing has been shared with them. And it just seems very not transparent to those that are affected specifically. And part of the reason why we built this home here in Ashland is because of the privacy and the quiet nature that our large plot of land has. And I think that it's only reasonable that particularly is considered. I think I stressed to Doug, I asked the question, how loud is this pump going to be? And Doug had indicated that no particular pump had been decided upon yet. And I think that it's something that's super important to both me and my partner who was listening in on that call and is listening in on this call to understand the impact to our environment. We talked about, with Doug, is this going to be in an enclosed structure? Is this going to be landscaped? Is this going to, be some ugly albatross that we have to look at? Doug was great. He tried to explain as much to me as possible, and I very much appreciate that. But again, I've not received any formal information from the town about something that's going to be essentially in my backyard.
Okay, and Andrew, I think Michael might have said that. So this particular meeting tonight and this hearing was just about the taking of the land. So we had to go through a very formal process to be allowed to take the property before we could even start designing and looking at what the pump station is going to potentially look like. And I would agree, I would think, and I'm sure Michael will confirm, that you will be notified about the ZBA hearing. It's on May 10th, so I would expect a notification to be going out shortly. It's typically 15 days before. And if, we will double check and work with Michael and Doug to make sure you are made aware of that hearing. And then some of those questions that you've just asked us that we don't have answers to, and even Doug, who is also on the meeting, doesn't quite have answers to yet, they will work with you and get those questions that you have answered.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. You know, it took me quite a bit of effort to just figure out how to get to the link to this Zoom call. You know, you have to click on 12 different things to find the agenda. I'm looking at your agenda for today's meeting. You know, and it's not particularly clear to anyone who's trying to participate what these meetings are if they do want to participate. Again, I was very thankful to another town resident who said you might want to be on tonight's call. And only after their direction was I able to figure out which meeting this was to have a conversation. And as you can see, I was nearly too late to have a conversation about it.
Sure.
And while I understand that this is about the taking of the land, and again, I'm not against this at all. Neither is my partner. What I'm taking offense to is the lack of communication from the town on what's transpiring, particularly on a piece of property that abuts mine.
Okay, we
Yeah.
take note of that, and we will work with our town departments and certainly town management to improve that moving forward. So thank you for letting us know that.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I'd like to just, Mr. Nordstrom, thank you for your comments. I think you raised actually some questions in my mind because the developer is going to be building this. So now I'm wondering about the process for design and review. It sounds like we're going to have an abbreviated process, which is usually what happens with the ZBA. So I don't know, Michael or Doug, can you answer some questions about that process? Because the kinds of issues he brings up about noise and how it looks and its design, I wouldn't want it to kind of slip out of our jurisdiction and then, you know, end up with some kind of issues or problems later that we'll have to be talking to Robert Hill Way about.
Yeah, some of the, obviously some of the issues that Mr. Nordstrom has articulated are certainly obviously very valid and you know, would cause anybody who abuts something like this concern. Actually, this is not an abbreviated process. This is actually probably one of the more prolonged processes we've ever had. Actually, it wasn't until we did research that we actually realized that these utility and booster pumps actually needed to go before the ZBA. Previously, none of the other booster pumps had gone before the ZBA. So, you know, while I understand that we can always improve our process and better, I don't want the board or the public or Mr. Nordstrom to think that this was shoved through. In fact, this has been quite.
No, I don't think I wasn't suggesting that. I'm just concerned now about usually when the planning board does something, there's public hearings, there's review of the design. The ZBA is usually a more narrowly focused, but you know, hopefully, so I guess my question would be, is that going to be a good process as in the town really is the entity doing this. So even though someone else is actually building it. So I think that's you know,
Well, I would say, Rob, knowing our ZBA and the thoroughness that they do things, you know, I think notification just maybe has not gone out yet regarding that process. So we will make sure that, you know, the abutters, including Andrew and the other abutters that will be impacted, we will make sure that they get notified. I think, you know, Doug is here on the call. I think that shows that he is concerned and he's very much involved. So
I just want to stress, Doug was fantastic in answering my questions. I have no issue whatsoever with the call I had with Doug. He was extremely helpful. So I want to thank Doug for taking the time to have that conversation with me, and I really appreciated it. But the important thing for me that I just want to make sure is brought to everyone's attention. I recognize that the residents of Independence obviously want to drive by something that's attractive. But this needs not just to be attractive from those on Independence. It needs to be attractive 365 degrees, because those of us who live behind it directly look out at this unit. And planting trees and and landscaping only on the independent side of the facility is not enough. So I think that that's worth noting. And the other question I have related to this is we have significant wetlands that are behind our property, a beautiful babbling brook that goes directly through our property, which we very much like. And I need to and want to understand the environmental impact of that device on the wetlands behind us and the many creatures and animals that live back there. So, you know, it's not just an aesthetic, although that is immensely important to me, but we have a lot of wildlife back there, and I'm concerned that something that's very loud will be abrasive to me as a human living near it, but will also be detrimental to the wildlife that lives in the protected wetlands that are on our property and our neighbor's property as well.
Well, looking at, you know, one of the nice things about Zoom is I'm able to look at the property lines, and you know, based on what we've just done in regards to the land taking, it will definitely only be on the property that's on Independence Lane. And I know our conservation department is always, our conservation commission is always very much aware of when we're doing any kind of construction, how it impacts wetlands. So I'm sure our ZBA will do their due diligence, as will Doug, to make sure that this does not impact any wetlands in regards to what is truly wetlands. So,
And
but
Andrew,
thank you for your, you know, for calling, and I'm sorry you almost missed it. And we will make sure that the official notifications regarding the actual hearings do get sent out.
just one more
Michael,
thing,
go ahead.
Madam Chair. Yeah, Andrew, I will reach out to you as well beforehand, before any notice goes out, and get as much information to you as I can about this so you can review it.
I appreciate that. And again, I know that my neighbors directly to our, depending on which way you're looking, but on the corner of Independence and Oak, I know that they are equally unaware of what's going on. And I believe that this booster pump is actually going to be significantly close to their home. And I know that they are similarly concerned about the noise impact as well as the aesthetics from their property. And so I appreciate your time. I won't draw it out any longer. I look forward to hearing from you, Michael, and you know, I look forward to hearing from you again as well, Doug. And again, I just want to stress, Doug was fantastic in answering my questions. I have no issue whatsoever. I just am not someone who is typically involved in what goes on in the town. I generally speaking allow the town to do what it wants to do, but in this circumstance, it is something that directly impacts me, you know, being in my backyard, no pun intended, I suppose. And I wanted to just voice the concern that those of us in the immediate area of it don't feel it's been well communicated, and we look forward to more information.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. I think they're very
Thank
helpful.
you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Madam Chair,
Yes, Joe.
I do have a question, and I see that Doug's here, so I'll pose the question for either Doug and for Michael to answer. Douglas, nice to see you, my friend. The pumping station that we're talking about, what is the size and scope of the unit in and of itself? And do we have one in town already similar to what we're going to be putting in?
It's a fairly, it's not a very large footprint. It's like I want to say somewhere around 10 feet by 20 feet. And then with the driveway also, there's going to be a driveway in the front. It's approximately 10 feet by 20 feet. There is a generator on the left-hand side of it that will be enclosed. And it's not very large at all. And it's not set back too far from Independence itself. And there is a hill to the left of where the station is going to go. So not only is there ZBA hearing, there's also going to be, I think, it's a site plan review also.
Yeah, right.
So there'll be ample opportunity for the public to give us their opinions and get, anyway. So we have multiple booster pump stations in Ashland, not many, there's one on Russet Hill. And it's fairly quiet.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that question so other people, if they live near one, maybe they can help Mr. Nordstrom with, with some of the questions that he has, seeing that they have firsthand experience being near a booster station in and of itself of that size. So thank you, I appreciate that, Doug.
Yes, well,
Doug, just a question. You said the ZBA and another, what did you say? I
Yeah.
missed it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a site plan review after.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that goes to my concern about, reviewing the design and hearings on that, to allow for that kind of process. So,
And we're glad we're gonna, be able to go to those different boards and kind of talk to them.
yeah, I think a little technical assistance to the ZBA would be helpful.
Yeah, we'll have Greg Eldridge from Haley Ward involved in the hearings if necessary.
And if I may, once you have decided on a pump, I'm assuming the manufacturer can provide you with a list of locations where they are installed somewhere in the area, so that any of us who are going to be near it have an opportunity to maybe drive out to where one of these are and, open the car door and maybe hear what it sounds like.
Yeah, I could look into that to find out if there are any similar manufactured stations in the area.
That would be fantastic.
Okay. Anything else on this? No? Okay, great. Doug, thank you so much for being here and answering those questions. Again, Andrew, thank you for your input. We are going to move on to the next item in our agenda. It is the introduction of our new library director, Mina John. Mina, welcome to Ashland.
Thank you so much.
Woohoo.
I'm glad to be here. It's been an incredible week and a half.
Just, as a little background to the process, because I know we like, we like process. We had a number of great applicants for this position, and we ended up with a number of finalists, semi-finalists, I guess you could say, and Mina and another candidate were the finalists for the position, and I interviewed them. Mina, stood head and shoulders above all the other candidates. She's currently with the Cary Library in Lexington, but has plenty of experience in other libraries in Natick and Medfield. She has a relationship with a couple of our trustees already, a working relationship based on her previous work. So again, it's going to be really tough to fill Paula's shoes, but Mina's the person who can do it. I have the utmost confidence. So I've set it all up for you, Mina. There you go.
Well, I'm definitely squishing around in her shoes right now, trying to find a fit. I knew Paula since I think 2012, and so I know she did a fantastic job here. And it's really nice to walk into a place where you just know that people already love the library, already love the staff. They have a sense of what they like from the library, and really are happy. So it's easy for me. I do have quite a bit of experience and a lot of interesting connections that I can't wait to bring to Ashland. But first, I'd like to get to know Ashland a little bit better, because I can bring all kinds of stuff here, but it doesn't help if people aren't interested. So my goal is to obviously learn how the library functions on a management level, but also to get really involved in the community and get to know people. And I've already started, and everybody I've met has been really lovely so far.
Nice. Well, welcome, Mina. I was so excited when I saw that you had gotten it. I'm like, I know her. Mina and I were fortunate enough to go through Leadership Metro West together, and that was a great year, and you really get to know people. So I'm excited to have you here in Ashland. thank you and good luck. And as you said, there's a lot of good stuff going on here already. I saw that you were all excited about our children's room. We have a spectacular children's room, so it's great. So thank you and welcome to Ashland.
Thank you so much.
Any other board members? Steve, go
Just
ahead.
I just want to say, Mina,
Oh.
your resume is absolutely incredible, and I'm sure that you will supersede this resume and bring that plus much more to Ashland. So we look forward to you having a long, illustrious career here in Ashland. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Steve?
Thank you. Nina, good to see you again. We met last night.
Great.
I attended the trustees meeting last night for a short period to meet Mina. And my only comment is you are going to fill your own shoes. And as you get to know the library and the staff and the community, it's clear that you're going to bring just a wealth of resources to an organization that is ready to go to the next level.
Yeah,
Right.
it is. It totally is. We're, once we get through COVID and reopen the doors and everything, we're ready to go. The staff is excited for new opportunities to try things that, they would like to do, but have not been able to mostly because of COVID.
Good. Well, good luck and welcome.
Thank you again so much.
Rob?
Yeah, just, welcome. And it sounds like it's going to be an exciting time, I think, to as we come out of this and get the library going again. And I did have, however, an important question for you. Of the select board members on this call, who would you think has the most books in their Zoom bag?
Comic books or
Well,
books?
From the pictures, I would say it's not Michael.
Yeah.
Michael's got a plaque. He's not a select board member, so
Oh, okay.
I'm one of those.
I won't put you on the spot with that.
Well, I can show you like a little bit of mine if you want to see.
There you go. All right.
It's a little bit of a mess because I pulled out all of my signed books. I'm taking them to the library and I'm
fun.
bringing them like little piles by, day by day.
Oh, good for
Fun.
you. All right. Well, thank you. You don't have to answer that question.
I
Wait
think I
till
already
you get
did.
tenure.
It's not being recorded, is it?
Yes,
No.
it is.
Oh.
We're going out live too, so. Yeah. Well, welcome again, Mina. Best of luck. And I know I personally look forward to working with you and seeing what we can do as a community.
Same here. And feel free to stop by the library anytime. I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mina.
Great. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Thank you.
Okay, moving on in our agenda, we're going to be speaking with Russ Dion from Campanelli and Thorndike regarding the request to release the $25,000 from the escrow regarding the Sears Development Detention Basin. Russell, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
I'll let you explain and then I'll take any questions or discussion from the board.
Sure. I was in front of the board just about a year ago. Thank you very much. It was just before COVID had taken place and changed all of our lives, but might have been one of your last meetings. I'm not quite sure.
I think so.
At that meeting, Peter Matchek made a brief presentation on behalf of the town planning department and the third-party engineer, Mike Carter, who works for the town on a variety of tasks, and established that the work that had been agreed to for the remediation work on the retention basin had been completed and the as-builts were completed and all of the work had been inspected and approved. At that time, there was two financial matters that were released. One was a posted performance bond of $141,000, which was released, and the other was a $75,000 cash escrow, of which $50,000 was released roughly about 12 and a half months ago. Thank you very much for that. It was suggested by the board to retain $25,000 in escrow and monitor the performance of the pond for roughly 12 more months, which we all did that. I know Peter's done that. I know Mike Carter has gone out to the pond at Peter's request on multiple occasions. And also Dave Mackwell of Kelly Engineering Group, who is our site engineer, has viewed the pond quite a few times over the year, and no one has had the pond not performing per expectation. Most recently, I know Conscom agent Megan and David have been walking the site for compliance closeout for the order of conditions, which is not an agenda item of this topic, but they've walked the site in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and she made a remark to Dave that said she felt the pond was performing as expected. So we're here to request the return of the final $25,000 in escrow, and certainly if there's any questions, I'm all ears, but that's a little bit of history.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yep. Go ahead, Steve.
So the only 2 documents I have in backup is an email from Peter Matchuk to Mike Carter, who is our third-party engineer apparently.
Yep.
Asking for some documentation, which I don't see here. The only other document that I have is the partial release that we agreed to back in 2019 or 2020, I think.
Yep.
So we don't have any of this verification documentation from either Mike or Peter or Concom or anyone at this point.
Yeah, in reviewing with Michael, it looks like we don't have that letter yet, but it is expected that that work has been done. So, but I know we probably won't feel comfortable approving this until we have that. But I don't know, I know I'm sure for Campanelli and Thorndike, it would be good to get it released. So a way we could handle this is, and unless you guys feel strongly that you want to see that letter, would be that we could approve this with a letter getting to Michael that shows that everything has been done. So that way we wouldn't have to wait until our first meeting in May. That we would approve the release as long as Michael has received a letter confirming that all the work has been done. Or we have to wait until our first meeting in May because we haven't gotten that review from.
May I
Yep.
ask?
Go ahead.
Russell, are you still in need of an order of conditions? Did I hear that right? Or a certificate of compliance? I'm sorry.
Yes, we are. Yes, there's that process was to go through, I think, 3 growing seasons, with the last growing season being, I believe, last fall. So Dave Mackwell had commenced that process with Megan in the latter winter stages of this year.
Okay, so my suggestion would be, if we're going to have a contingent approval, it would be based on a favorable report from Mike Carter, as well as the certificate of compliance being issued
That makes sense.
by the Conservation
Are
Commission.
people comfortable with that? So that we don't have to, so that they don't
Yes,
have to
that
come
seems
back to our
reasonable.
meeting in May, our first meeting in May?
I thought Russ was going to donate it to the town. That's what I was told.
Well, I'd be happy to do
I'm
that,
sure
but
we
I'm not
want
so
it.
I
sure.
don't think.
Not so sure that would get a positive vote.
Okay.
It does look lovely as you go by. There's a lot of, it's looking like a real pond at this point. There's the cattails and a few other things that prop up particular times a year.
Oh, that's between the apartment building and the train station, basically. Is that the pond right by Memorial Drive? Is that right?
Yeah, on the left-hand side there.
Yes. Okay.
So the request is that we approve this request contingent on a favorable report from Mike Carter.
Yep.
And the subsequent approvals of the Conservation Commission. Is that
Yes,
the
certificate of compliance.
Yeah, the certificate,
of
yep.
compliance? Okay.
I think, yeah, if as long as everyone's comfortable with that, I think that would be a motion that I would be looking for. Any other
So-
thoughts?
Yeah.
No? I had her so moved from Steve. If I can get a
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
Second, I'll take it from Joe. He was the loudest.
Always.
Mignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shearer,
Hi.
and Greaves, aye. And that passes 4-0. So Russell, as long as those two things come back favorable, we're good to go.
Okay, well, I want to just thank the board for its time over the years. We much appreciate it, and thank you. And I have no problem with those two items, and
Great.
we'll move on. I actually would like to make a quick comment. I was listening, and I think you guys would appreciate this. I find your website incredibly user-friendly. And every time I go there, I find everything I need immediately, whether it's an agenda or a link. So I just wanted to say that. Anyhow, thank you very
You
much.
too.
Thank
Take
you, Russell.
care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Well, that was nice of him.
Yeah.
Gratuitous niceness. Jeez.
Well, you
Yeah.
know, I have mixed feelings about our website. actually.
Yeah, I
Oh.
do too. There was stuff
Oh,
I wasn't
well.
looking for, and you'd think I'd be able to find it. But anyway,
That reminds me, I
That's
keep
for
getting
another
security
discussion.
notices. Yeah.
okay. Are you doing your security stuff, Rob?
Well, I don't think so, because that's why I'm getting the notices. So yeah, no, I'm not.
Then it doesn't take that long.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, moving on. Next thing on our agenda, we have Andrew Carew from Eversource. They're coming to talk to us about performing some night work on Elliott Street. We have a nice presentation. I see Doug and Chief Alfano. Michael, who's going to take us through this presentation?
Well, we were expecting Andrew.
Okay,
I'm hearing that Andrew is in the waiting room, but he is not.
I
in
don't
the
see
waiting
him.
room.
unless he's the 310 phone number that's on our thing.
Do not think so.
Ask them to unmute. No. Good
Okay.
evening, Chief.
That's
Okay, where
pardon
are
me,
you
I
sitting?
apologize.
Because
This
you
is
have
Sean.
a lot of
This
books.
is Sean Logan.
He's got the
Eversource,
most
if you can hear me.
books.
Oh, hi, Sean. Are you
Hi,
here to
hi.
speak about instead of Andrew, or?
I'm here to just support Andrew. I am stuck in the waiting room, so I dialed in on my phone though. So I'm assuming he's in the waiting room waiting to be admitted. Hopefully.
I'm not seeing him in the waiting
Not
room.
seeing- No.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, you know what? I can try to actually give him a quick call. I was having some trouble joining via video, so I actually dialed in on my
Okay.
phone.
I'm sorry to hear
I'll reach
that.
out to him right. I'll reach out to him
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
All right.
Trying to.
Okay.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
So if it's
Good
okay,
evening.
while we're waiting, I'm going to jump to item 5C under old and new business because it shouldn't take too long. Announcing the select board scholarships, two $1,500 scholarships, one male and one female. They have to be in Ashland, graduating from high school this year and going on to college. We now have our form online. So you can go online and find that application, and then you submit that, as well as then get your 2 letters of recommendation in as well. And that is open until May 19th, so that our subcommittee has the opportunity to review those and then make a selection before graduation. Okay.
Am I on mute still?
You're still, we can still hear
Okay. So Andy says he's in the waiting room. He's been texting with Doug Small, and Doug's having a little bit of trouble joining via video as well. And I'm in there, but what I see for the recurring meeting is it says school committee weekly COVID learning
Oh, yeah.
phase meeting.
Try the other link.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to come in on the calendar. If you click the regular link, you won't get in. If you click the little circle on the calendar, it'll get you in.
Yeah.
Dougie showed me that.
Yeah, I just sent Andrew the calendar.
Okay. Thank you for doing that, Doug.
Yep, and now I'm able to join. I'm going to tell Andy to use that link. He'll be on in just a second. He's in that wrong waiting room, it seems.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you. Are you seeing them in the waiting room, Michael?
No, I think he's probably in the waiting room for another meeting.
Okay.
Earlier tonight, I went to the agenda and it had a link on there, and I tried that. And after a while, after about 10 minutes, I gave up and I went back to this calendar page. and it
Yeah, I
worked.
think unfortunately the one on our meeting wasn't working. We're gonna want to make sure we double check those moving forward so that that doesn't happen again, because I'd hate it if other people are trying to get on and they
And that's by
can't.
clicking the link on the agenda, Doug? Is that what happened and that didn't work? Okay.
Yeah, the problem I encountered was the link that's, one of the links, the large one is actually the wrong link. And you have to try the smaller one that was on the other side of the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm gonna do
I
something.
just want to be, okay.
You try forwarding this to email also.
Okay.
I was wondering who's tapping those keys. It's Doug. Madam Chair, is there another agenda item you think we can tackle? All the way?
Let's see. Yeah, we can talk about this one. It's item D, discuss changing board reports. So I've been noticing at board reports when everyone's getting ready to finish their day and finish their meeting, we bring up things sometimes that we then require discussion or a lot of input. So I wanted to get people's feedback. I think if you know you have a board report that you're going to be, presenting and want to have a discussion, I thought that instead of doing those in board report, email me and Michael the week before and say, I'd like this added to the agenda. And then you can still tell us that you went to a meeting, but if there's something that you feel needs to be discussed, email us. And I wanted to see what people thought about that.
Yeah, I
Rob?
like that idea. Yes, thank you. I like that idea because I think it does, at least you're on the agenda and people are still paying attention and you can talk about something as that involves all of us. So I think that's a good idea. And I would just say that, we shouldn't limit what people can put on the board reports, but I think using common sense, if you've got a little bit to discuss and you think a discussion is warranted, it's good to put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I think if we're gonna be discussing issues of regional importance, let's say Rob goes to a transportation meeting, Yolanda, you're doing an MAPC update. Those are probably things that are slightly more important than community events, I guess. Those
Right.
kinds of things, right?
And the concern is that something that gets brought up and we have a discussion about it, and then not that we're going to make a decision, but then it's something we're then going to discuss further, and
Right.
it's not on our agenda. So someone may complain, and so
Yeah, I think
it's just for us to be a little clearer and for our agendas to be a little clearer. So if
Yes, I
that's good with
agree.
everybody,
I agree.
I don't
perfect.
have a problem with that, but I think you would start your meetings at 6:30 instead of 7.
Well, some of us are
Because
still
11
working.
o'clock is really
I'm in
strict.
favor of that too.
That's an interesting point. 7, as long as we're not traveling from work, I think we have a little like remote 6:30 works better than.
We could look at 6:30, but.
But
like
I think
said,
if people are then traveling from work again, if we ever go back, then I think 7 o'clock's a better time.
okay, well, we can finish that discussion. But so from moving forward, if you've attended a regional and you want to have some discussion, email me and Michael the week before and we can get it added to the agenda. Great. Thank you all.
Good, yeah.
Welcome, Andrew. Welcome, Sean. You guys can go ahead and unmute and take us through the request from Eversource to do some evening work. Welcome to Ashland and the Select Board meeting.
Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it. I prepared a brief presentation for you. It's think a 7-slide PowerPoint. I'm not sure if it was forwarded on to you, but I'll use that as the guiding document for tonight's discussion.
Michael, do you want to share that so folks at home can
Yes, I can do that.
see what we're seeing?
Okay. Let's see.
Fun with technology.
How are things in the waiting room?
Very
I don't
good.
think there's
Everybody
anyone
see
in the
the
waiting
screen?
room right now, so. Okay.
Great. Thank you for putting that up. So we're going to go through a couple sections of this, one being the revised project scope, changed recently, so I want to update everybody on that. Safety considerations associated with the project and night work, the project discussion, and then I'll open it up for questions on the project as well. So I know that the diagram there's a little bit of an eye chart, but originally the project was going to start at the Elliott Pond intersection and proceed toward Leland Farm Road. It was about 1,000 feet of 8-inch main installation, and then there were 2 sub-mains that went into the commercial areas at 260 and 290 Elliott. Recently, the scope changed primarily due to cost, the paving moratorium, and timing. So I just wanted to give everybody a frame of reference of what the original project looked like and where we're going to go with it. Safety considerations. So the requirement is to conduct this work at night, primarily due to the traffic impact. And frankly, I think that's although it's never easy working at night, it will definitely minimize the impact on pedestrian and vehicle traffic. And we'll gain some efficiencies by doing this work at night as well. I've talked to Doug extensively about it, and I think we both agree that this is the best way to do it. So what we're going to provide to do the work, so I'll be the on-site supervisor for the project. I've been with this project since its inception, so started the project last year at the Framingham line, and this is one of the last phases of it. We're going to put up additional signage, lighting, and barricades as required. We were speaking about it earlier today with the Mass DOT, and again, we're going to basically throw the kitchen sink at it. Doing any sort of night work is inherently dangerous. So anything that you require, we will ensure that we fulfill. And in addition, we'll go above and beyond anything that's required to do the night work. Chief Alfano spoke this morning about having police cruiser there on site while we're working. We certainly appreciate that, as that will make the work zone a lot safer as well. And then if you identify any additional resources or you'd like to see something as we conduct this night work, like I said, we want to make sure that the project is conducted safely because it's your community and we want to be good ambassadors for our company and good ambassadors in the community. So we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that your needs are satisfied. You can scroll down, please. So this is what it looks like now. So the project scope's changed quite a bit. So we've added a larger component on the Sherborne side of the Elliott Pond intersection. So our intention is to install 4-inch main, about 265 feet to the east. So again, that's the Sherborne side of that intersection. We'll go 200 feet to the west of the Pond Elliott intersection. That takes us to about the Shaw's driveway. And then there's 1 sub-main, 3 service tie-overs that are associated with the project. So it's been scoped down significantly. Originally, I intended to need to work at night for 10 to 15 days. This is basically going to cut that in half. So it's a much simpler project to execute. It'll have a lesser impact on your community. And it's been scoped down accordingly. So just discussion about the logistics of working at night. So our intention is to work from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. One of the considerations with scoping the project down was just the noise concern. It's primarily a commercial area there, but there are folks that live in that area, and there's going to be some innate noise associated with our project. So I think moving it a little bit farther away from Leland Farm and some of the more residential areas, you move farther up Elliott, it will minimize that impact. So our hours would be 7 to 5. We would only work 4 10-hour nights. So it would be Monday night to Thursday night. The intention is to wrap up on Friday morning. It should take 4 to 7 days. We've got some good insight on the digging up there. It will be on the shorter side if we don't run into any ledge or other impediments digging. It would be on the longer side if we have difficulty excavating. Our intention is to start on 5/10/21, which is that Monday night. And per Doug's guidance, anything that we do outside of the DOT scope of work would be subject to full curb-to-curb paving. So I know that road is currently under excavation moratorium, so we would fully repair anything that we disrupted outside of the DOT scope of work. And that concludes my presentation. What questions or concerns do you have for me about the project? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, if you don't mind. Angela, thank you for
Go
the
ahead.
presentation. You said that most of your work now has been changed. It's going to be on the Sherburne side of Elliott Street. How far down Elliott Street towards Sherburne, towards the Sherburne line, will you be going?
So the actual physical dimensions, 264 feet. It's just past the gas station. So there's the mobile station on the corner. It's just past that. We don't get into any of the residential area down there. It's really to tee that up for potential future expansion. There's a lot going on down there, whether it's in Ashland or Sherborne. So it's really to set the stage for potential future work down there.
And is there a time frame as to when that future potential work may be looked at? Would it be sooner or later?
Probably later.
Much
I
later?
think, yeah, it's certainly not on any sort of critical projects list.
Okay.
So if you're asking for a horizon, it's probably 5 to 10 years.
Okay. Thank
But
you.
again, when we do any of this gas infrastructure work, the goal is to look a little bit farther out and anticipate potential needs. So that's the primary reason for doing that.
Okay. You said that you'll be adding extra lighting in that specific area as well. I just want to bring it to your attention that there are at least 3 residential homes that are directly behind the mobile station, and they're very close to the road. And my concern is, even though you're going 200 feet from the intersection to the end of the lot area of mobile, those homes are directly and right in that area. So one, I'm concerned about, even though you say there aren't residents there are. So I'm concerned about the noise level there. And I'm also concerned about the extra lighting. And will there be any way of shading that light so that it doesn't reflect into the residential homes in that area?
Absolutely. So the lighting is easier to address. Again, we'll do everything that we can so that the light's not shining directly on homes, and it's used primarily just to light the excavation area. So we will definitely keep that in mind as we install additional lighting there for safety. As far as the 3 homes, again, we're very cognizant that there's residents and homes right there. One of the things that we could do is work on the excavation of there earlier in the evening. So get that open up. And there's some preparation work that we can do to kind of shorten the timeline in the vicinity of the residents. Just so that we're not doing heavy excavation at 2 or 3 in the morning. I think it's a little bit of a give and take, but if we can do that maybe in that 7 to 9 period and phase it in like that, where it's before the typical bedtime, I think we can minimize the impact on the residents.
And my last question, and I appreciate the answers, Andrew. Thank you. My last question: will you be using metal plates to cover the construction site holes that you're working on once the work is done for the day?
I typically don't like to do that, particularly with night work. So our intention right now is to have a hot box on site and complete paving before we leave the job site.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome, sir.
Okay, Stephen, then Rob.
Thank you for the presentation, Andrew. So can you just verify the size of the pipe that you're installing in this new phase? Is
Sure.
it 8-inch or is it 4-inch?
The Elliott side on Ashland proper is an 8-inch main installation. The side going to Sherborne will be
4-inch. And why is that if you are anticipating future expansion? Why would that become a 4-inch pipe?
So we look at that so we have a whole group at Eversource that deals with system analysis and basically forecasts future demand. The intermediate pressure system at a 4-inch is a lot more robust than what exists down there right now. So it's an upgrade in itself. The reason for the 8-inch on Elliott Street and Ashland proper is that will become a much larger project at some point. With the growth in Ashland and some of the things that you have going on in town, we're going to need that capacity on the Ashland side, which is the reason for the difference in the size of pipe and the volume that we'll be able to provide to the different areas.
Okay, thank you for that. And then one last question I have is, what's a paving moratorium?
So the town has a paving plan where you'll basically restore roads to new condition. As part of that, contractors, excavators aren't allowed to open up your roads outside of emergencies. So, and it's basically so that somebody's not going in there and damaging newly paved roads. Those construction projects, as you know, are extremely expensive. So most towns have typically a sometimes 5+ year moratorium on newly paved roads, so that they're not becoming damaged by excavation.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Rob?
Yeah, and so first of all, and I don't know if this is better addressed to Michael or Doug, but are we the ones requesting this project, or is this Eversource's project? What's the reason behind this? Is this pure maintenance? Is it gas line expansion? Does it have to do with the 126 project? I'm just not sure what this is, why this project is being proposed. Can someone fill me in on that?
Sure, I'll take that. The catalyst is definitely the DOT Pond Street drainage project.
Okay.
So we've installed, or when we finish it, we'll have installed about a mile of new 8-inch main from the Framingham Town line to just short of Spyglass Hill. So this new gas main, it was going to require tie-ins on the Sherborne and Ashland side anyway in the intersection. In this new scope, I don't know, it more reflects the original design of this. So these things were going to be required side, both on the Sherborne and Ashland side, were tied into our new main. So the catalyst is the DOT drainage project.
Okay, and who's asking for? You stated earlier that night work is inherently dangerous. Who's pressing you to do night work, and is it us, or is that? And if so, how have we balanced the various safety considerations between working during the day and at night?
Yeah, we've discussed this with both Doug and Chief Alfano at length. And if you've been on Pond Street recently, you've got in a given day 3 to 5 distinct work zones between the Framingham Town line and Elliott. When we're doing work in the intersection proper, I mean, it's going to be extremely disruptive to traffic. So to be frank, I believe it's actually safer to do that intersection and the associated work at night, because the traffic is, and the police and everybody doing a fantastic job keeping the work zone safe and maintaining traffic flow, but it is very, very busy. So conducting this project at night.
Agree? Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Chief, do you agree with that thinking? Is that why we're considering moving it to the night?
Yes, the area right now during the daytime is really oversaturated. All you need to do is drive through there and
Right.
you'll see it. Businesses are still open and the traffic's still getting through. But if we were to tack this additional project on, it would have a serious disruption of the businesses in the area during the daytime. And I think out of fairness to the merchants in the area, the night work would be much better.
All right, thank you. And I think one of the things we're balancing, because I am concerned when I hear about noise late at night, that is really a serious issue for people, of course. You know, hopefully we can minimize that as much as possible. The other thing I want to say, Andrew, and maybe Sean, this is, I presume if you have to replace the pipe anyway, and it's safer, it's safe to put an 8-inch versus 4-inch, but you folks at Eversource should not be thinking that you're automatically increasing gas use. I mean, I don't know why you're still thinking that way. And I would just caution you about, I haven't seen these projections, and I guess this is not the forum to say yes or no based on that. But I would say, unless you've got very unusual circumstances, you should be looking at less use of gas and being very careful about using ratepayers' money for kinds of projects to expand gas pipeline and gas infrastructure. But I understand in this case, we've got a different situation, but I would caution you about assumptions about gas demand increasing.
Sure. And my point on that wasn't to address that. That's a very, it's a macro question. I mean, we can speak for hours about that, but one of our priorities, and it's an obligation to the Massachusetts DPU as well as the communities, is to ensure that the infrastructure that exists today is safe. And that's one of the reasons for the project. So I know that I primarily spoke about capacity and things like that, but we also have an obligation to you and as well as the state of Massachusetts to ensure that the system that we operate is safe. And
I think that's just, not to interrupt, but I think that's why you'll get an approval here tonight, because we believe in safe systems, but we don't necessarily go along with, or at least I don't, your assumptions about increased demand. So I would just be careful about basing any plans on those kind of projections.
And I should say this, Sean Lozier, just chiming in. We do agree with you, and forward looking as you look to the distant and not so distant future, a lot of the infrastructure that's in place and a lot of the infrastructure that will be put in place can be repurposed for a lot of renewable projects, including renewable natural gas, responsible natural gas. We have a couple of different pilot programs around geothermal we're looking at increasing.
That's what I want to hear. Yeah, geothermal sounds great. I would suggest us for one of those pilot programs.
So that's interesting. So I'd like to I'll reach out tomorrow morning to the board. We're actually coordinating meetings with different towns and communities that are interested, and I'm running point on that. I'd be more than happy to connect with the board and either make a presentation or meet with town officials as well to talk about feasibility.
I'd be thrilled about that, speaking for myself, but
yeah, I think we all would.
Certainly, we all would be looking at, anything you can do for renewable energy is something that it's very much supported here in Ashland.
Just so you know, Sean, we're in the middle of constructing a public safety building whose HVAC system is geothermal.
This is a new school that we're doing
a new school with a geothermal system as well.
There's some exciting things happening with geothermal. So I'll make that connection to our Director of Clean Technology, Nikki Bruno, and we can actually meet with the city's sustainability director. I'll include Doug, I'll include Mike, and I'll include the board.
Wonderful.
Well.
Great.
Thanks, Sean.
Excellent.
So I just have one or two questions regarding communications with the abutters. As Joe mentioned, there are 3 homes as I'm looking at your map of where you're going to be doing the work. So definitely we want to make sure that those homes and those residents are communicated with directly somehow, as well as the businesses. I know some of them, you're going to be starting work at 7 o'clock. Certainly Mobile, Shaw's, the restaurants in that area, the businesses in that area, some of them are still open. So in another project, we had required that letters go out and communication be made to any abutter that it's going to be impacted by your work. So if we can make sure that happens. And then, hearing that you're, wanting to make sure our pipes are safe, I think is a good thing. Chief, did you have any questions or concerns, or have you spoken with them directly in regards to the night work?
No, Doug, Andrew and myself meet at least 2 times every week, and we
Oh,
have been
wow.
for about over a month on that project. I can say I've worked with Andrew for a little over 2 years now, and I've been very impressed. His management of the site, his planning, and his safety consciousness is impeccable. If we would choose anyone running a project like that, I would pick Andrew. He's an ace at what he does, and I know Doug will second that as well. So we've talked about this quite a bit, and as you said, it's a balancing act between disruption and noise versus
Right.
total disruption to the school buses and all of that. So I think it's a 4 to 7 day project. If they get it done and work right along, they'll get it done, and they want to be out of there as quick as they can. So
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Doug. Thank you.
I'll be honest with you, Andrew, I would prefer to see the work that's being done next to those houses be done during the day. I'll be honest with you, it's kind of a surprise to me. When I saw that map, I wasn't aware of that. I thought it was just the Shaw's sites that you were looking at. So seeing the Sherburne end going to those 2 or 3 houses, I've never discussed that with you, to tell you the truth. And if there was a way to do that during the day, I would prefer that. That area is not that bad from like 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. But in the afternoon, it's terrible. But I don't think those 3 people that live there should have to go through the excavation and the paving and all that, quite frankly. Sorry.
No problem at all, Doug. I mean, we can certainly discuss doing that during the day. Again, the balancing act has been brought up a number of times. It is a balancing act between completing the infrastructure project and being a good neighbor in your community. So if it makes sense to do that part during the day, we can certainly pivot on that.
Yeah, I mean, the original scope had you going up to Leland Farm, and now that's changed. And I don't know how far out of the state layout you are. It doesn't look like it's much. So as far as that moratorium goes, that doesn't really help Ashland, to tell you the truth, from what I've seen now. So it's kind of like I said, a lot of it was new to me today when I saw the PowerPoint.
Joe, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. Thank you. To Doug's point and Andrew, if you folks decide to go the route, to do it in daytime, does that expand the time frame that the work needs to be done? Does that increase your time frame?
It will. So anything within the scope of the DOT project is subject to restricted hours. So that would add probably 3 or 4 days to the existing scope if we were to do it during the daytime, just because we lose an hour to 2 hours a day due to the DOT time restrictions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know that part is part of the DOT where the houses are. I don't know that that's part of the DOT project. I think it's far enough
It's not.
off of off of Pond Street that they should. So I'm gonna recommend this, that it sounds like Andrew and Doug, you guys have started talking already. I'm gonna recommend that you finish the conversation, but I am gonna look to the board to approve night work as needed, with the work of that Andrew and Sean continue working with Doug and the chief to make sure it's done safely and that the communication happens with the residents. Does that make sense to the board?
Yep. So moved when we're at that point of a motion.
Okay, if I can get a second.
I'll second.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. Mignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shear,
Aye.
and Greaves, aye. So you have the approval to do the night work. Just make sure residents are communicated with and that you work with Doug and the chief to work out the exact timing as to when you're going to do some of the work.
Understood. I appreciate everybody's time, and I appreciate the flexibility that you built into the plan.
Yeah.
Well, it's important, and we are all, I mean, I'm super excited this, the whole Pond Street project is getting done. So I know that you need to work within DOT, and it's, it's a lot of juggles, a lot of things that are moving parts. So Thank you and good luck.
Madam Chair, we just need to make sure that Doug's happy too.
Yep.
You know, he is director of roads and caretaker of all our roads in town. So if you two need to work things out, Andrew, and it does come to fruition that it'll be a day job instead of a night job,
Yep.
we need to know that so that we can,
I
Do we
don't
have to
think
vote?
we need
Do-
to amend anything. I think
okay,
what they're going to do for night work, that's, we've just approved that.
yeah,
And then I think Andrew and Sean can work with Doug to determine, what's going to happen and if it makes sense to do it during the day for those homes or not. I mean, maybe those people, I don't know. So I'm going to
Yeah.
let Doug and Andrew and Sean
okay.
work that out.
As long as Doug's happy. Did we put that in the motion?
I'll amend
fully
that motion.
understand that.
It's an implied, I think.
My relationship and our relationship with Doug is extremely important. So
Right.
yeah, we will not let Doug or anybody here down.
Don't wake
Great.
up a sleeping giant.
And Sean, thank you for, your comments as well. And
Yes.
looking forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll
Yes, thank
circle up
you.
in the
Thanks,
morning
Sean.
with the group. And I appreciate the chair and the board time and also for adjusting on the fly with the virtual. Eventually, we'll be able to do this in person and it'll all be normal again. But for now, I appreciate you working with the technical difficulties in the beginning. I will
That's
reach out
okay.
with more.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Sean.
Sean. Thank you,
Sean.
Andrew.
Thanks,
Thank
Andrew.
you, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Chief.
Chief.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Good night,
Okay.
Dougie.
Okay, moving on. So we've done everything in our appointments. We've done our consent agenda. We are now moving into old and new business that we haven't done. Review the tentative warrant articles and date and time for the annual town meeting. Michael.
So first, what I'd like to do is just do a really quick run through of what we have or what we would be looking at in terms of warrant articles. So obviously you'd have the FY22 budget, a capital authorization if we are going to have that this year. Then we have several consent articles and annual authorization articles, including one for CPC. The ones that will be specific to this town meeting, we have a couple of zoning ones. So first, there are going to be proposed amendments to the downtown zoning. That's going through the process with the planning board right now. That would be on the warrant this for annual town meeting. There's also just some language cleanup in terms of design review that would be proposed. And then the last zoning bylaw we would probably be looking at this meeting is what I'm going to christen the Dale Buchanan front porch bylaw. This has been Dale's labor of love for a couple of years now. So that should be on the warrant this spring as well. And finally, there's going to be two things I want to point out. One is we will need an easement from the YMCA on their property for the Trolley Brook Trail that runs through the Rail Transit District. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later when we get to the Rail Transit District section. The other piece is right now, Brittany and I are looking at some previously authorized borrowings and looking at whether we should repurpose or repeal those, which would need a 2/3 vote at town meeting as well. So those are the warrant articles that we were looking at right now. In terms of the time and the date, I believe just building on what the last update I had was, so we had originally set a date for June 12th, I believe at 1 p.m. and it was going to be held outside. Subsequent meetings with the moderator and our technical team who really produce these town meetings, it made a lot more sense given where we are in society right now in terms of vaccination and everything to move it inside. And so the question now is, okay, do we want to look at changing the date and the time? The moderator is certainly open to, and I believe actually prefers moving it to a weeknight. But obviously it's the board's call is when you want to call the town meeting.
Gentlemen, thoughts?
Are there proposed other dates?
Well, I would like to get your impressions as to whether or not you'd like to move it to a weeknight. If so, we would move it somewhere within that June 12th timeframe. Either look at the week before or the week after.
Yeah, my only comments would be June 12th is also the first day of the farmer's market. So depending on the time, if it were held that Saturday, depending on the time, there would be, I think, a potential impact. You know, looking at, and I just recently did this, I went back really like 10 years to find out what our annual town meeting attendance was. And it's surprising what how few people attend annual town meeting, and it averages maybe 300 people on a good night. Now, you know, I suppose we can make the argument that doing it on a Saturday might increase that. I don't know. I just historically, given the fact that Springtown meeting, our annual town meeting, is dominated by the budget, and it sounds like for the most part it's going to be dominated by the budget again. You know, who knows? So I guess a bottom line for me is I'm okay with moving it to a weeknight.
Yeah, what do people think about, you know, we talked about it being outdoors for safety, COVID-19 reasons, and it sounds like people are thinking about changing that. I don't know. I think that's worth a little discussion or review. I mean, you know, I don't know. I guess at that point, I guess part of the, you know, what's going to happen with these more contagious variants, and is that what we're going to be faced with or not? I suppose if things keep going in a positive direction, you know, I would tend to agree with the moderator, but I think we don't know at this point. What was the downside of being outside? Worry about inclement weather or?
Inclement weather, technological difficulties, the fact that on a warm day that field gets to 150 degrees. You wouldn't be able to see the screen due to the sun on the whole projection issues.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the time that we had talked, it looked like the trend was certainly becoming more favorable in terms of people getting vaccinated and the numbers reflecting that. If there's a change, we'll have to do what we've done before and pivot, you know, if there's a significant change.
Yeah. What do other people think about the safety of people? I'm curious to see what other members think.
Joe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, we're in the catch-22. We're damned if we do and damned if we don't. But Rob, with respect to your question about safety of that's paramount for me anyway. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have both my shots and stuff, but that doesn't mean something can't happen or there'll be another,
yeah, right,
you know, another strain that comes down along the way. I don't know. If I knew, I would pick 6 numbers and retire and say thank you, and that would be it. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury of knowing what's going to happen. And again, so I would like to err on the side of caution, especially when it comes to the residents. So I would, you know, I think we need just to be. To me, I would just feel more comfortable having it outside, though I don't like having it outside. If we would get more people to attend an outside meeting, that would be great. I mean, that's one of the things we discussed prior to. But if it's going to be the same group that Steve has mentioned, that, you know, we get the 300 plus that come just about every year. Well, we have the inside work that we can utilize. We have the gymnasium. We have an auditorium. We have a cafeteria, all within you know 100 feet of one another. You know, in the same building, and you don't have to worry about inclement weather. So, to me, if we have to make that decision, fine. I'm not a meteorologist. I can't predict what the weather's going to be. Nor can anybody. So if we have to go back inside, we go back inside. But Steve, I know the farmer's market is near and dear to you and everything. Is it something that we can hold a meeting in the afternoon and not in the morning?
Yeah, I've said in the past, Joe, town meeting is actually more important from my perspective than the farmer's market is. I'm just reflecting that there might be an impact on attendance because of that. I'm not advocating we change it for that reason by any means, but I will just suggest that my observation of the world today is that we're definitely moving into an era of time where protocols are being more relaxed. I think people are getting more comfortable being out in the real world, going indoors, dining. Joe, you and I were at Erica's over the weekend, right? We were comfortable being inside there. And, and I think people are getting more and more comfortable, assuming, to Rob's point, that the statistics, the data are trending the way they're trending. And, there's some talk of even relaxing the mask mandates at some point in the very near future, from what I'm reading.
For outside, yeah.
For outside. So, I'm thinking that, when you say we're damned if we do, damned if we don't, I think it just seems to me people are just more comfortable now and ready to get back into some better normalcy.
Go ahead, Michael.
If I may make a suggestion. So first, I want to reiterate some of the problems with having it outside are not necessarily inclement weather. They're actually very good weather can cause problems because the field actually gets 150 degrees, which could certainly make it uncomfortable, if not unbearable, for a lot of people. And you can't see the screen, so people would be squinting. This is my idea. I would propose we support moving it inside into the auditorium. If we feel like we need to increase safety protocols, let's move into the gym again. We got 2 town meetings under our belt. One that was extremely, very ingenuitive. And so we have the ability, I feel like, to pivot that pretty quickly so we could have social distancing and spacing and everything like that, more so than we would in the auditorium. That's a suggestion.
To that, Michael, I would say if we are going to look to an inside, I would say let's plan it in the gymnasium.
Yeah, I agree.
You said, we did June in the gymnasium, we did December in the gymnasium, we did January in the gymnasium, all through some critical times. And I think we know how to do that. We know how to, do the check-ins, set the chairs, the audio visual has been done there. And if anything, we could even reduce it to 3 feet apart if we're finding that works, right? That's what they're doing in the schools now. It's 3 feet apart versus 6 feet apart. We can still keep people masked. So I'm agreeable to putting it inside, but don't even try doing it in the auditorium yet. Just we know the gymnasium works.
Excuse me,
Let's
Yolanda.
do it there. Yes, I have extra help here.
That's my cat, I'd swear.
And then I would say, part of me likes the idea of trying it on a Saturday, because we've heard people say, do it on a Saturday because a weeknight doesn't work for us. So is this an opportunity, because we've already said we're considering doing it on a Saturday, to do it on the Saturday afternoon and see what kind of turnout and feedback we get there? But I'm willing to work with the moderator and see what happens.
Mhm.
I know we need to decide somewhat soon, but part of me is like, let's keep it on the Saturday. Let's keep it at the 1 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever we want to do in the gymnasium, and see what we get. That's what I'm thinking, rather than moving it to a weeknight.
Yeah, I would have to check the schedule of the gymnasium. So that, if we do decide to hold it in the gymnasium, along with the moderator, we might be better served by having it during a weeknight. So that would give us some flexibility. as
Okay.
opposed to, we only have one Saturday that we can do this.
Right.
Which is really, which is June 12th. Again, moving it to a weeknight will give us a little bit more flexibility with whoever's using the gymnasium, whether it's the school or a youth organization.
The other consideration on a Saturday certainly is also the youth sports programs that are going on in the morning. So, you know, it's just
You know, and then there's the people who at night it's tough because their kids are, you know, going to bed, or it's there's
no
never a
best.
great time.
No,
You know,
no,
that's why
there's-
part of me is like, if we try a Saturday because we haven't done a Saturday, you know, maybe more elderly will be willing to come because they can drive during the daytime, or maybe,
Yeah.
you know, it'll be easier. You know, we can then do babysitting there, and it could be the whole town meeting because the kids don't have to leave to go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Until you try it, you're right.
Exactly.
I would just say, yeah, I would support moving it indoors with, you know, the condition that if we're looking at the statistics and these variants look bad, that we review that.
Right.
And second, I think the gym is better. The auditorium, that seating is just cramped. You know, it's just, it's from an earlier era when people crowded together to watch performances. I don't know if that'll ever come back.
And I saw someone posted something. They went to a concert, not here in Ashland, but someplace else. And it was in an auditorium, but they were spread apart. So
yeah,
to fit potentially 300 people would not work in our current auditorium.
And even if the seats are spread apart, the aisles of getting to those seats are just.
Right. They're right on top of one another.
So let's check that with the schools and see if we can get this, you know, and work with Adam.
The only problem, well, this is a new problem. The gym is not air conditioned.
Right.
What about the fans though? It does have good
They
fans, right?
they
'Cause
use
you really
fans
need-
at graduation, which will be the week before. So,
Okay.
you know, and you know,
Yeah.
June
long as-
12th
I
could
would
be
say
hot
that's
or
a-
it could be cold.
Yeah, it's a good point, but we are going to need fans regardless, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right, just to keep
Right,
it.
we're gonna have
Just to circulate
ventilation
the air.
going, so.
Yeah.
And if we feel we need to, just like they do at graduation, we can have a screen in the auditorium so that if people really feel like they need to sit in air conditioning, they can go in there for air conditioning and then come back to vote, or we can figure out a way to count their votes in the auditorium.
The other thing, Yolanda, if you don't mind me, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
That's
Michael.
okay.
We need to check the basketball schedule because I know
Right.
everything got moved up. So that could be a conflict. You know, I'm not too sure. I haven't checked recently, but you know, when you get hockey players playing football because they can, you know, anything can happen. So,
Well, this
but
is,
I'm all for going inside.
This is a good discussion. And so it gives me a lot to take back and talk to Adam about and the team and see how we can make the most perfect town meeting we can, you know.
I mean, like I said, January, you know, we don't have to do that because I'm not expecting, to Steve's point, that many people, but you know, we can make it work.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. And thanks to the team for considering and looking at stuff. Okay, moving on. Next, vote and sign the election warrant for Tuesday, May 18th, with a time of 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the election day, and then offering early in-person voting on Wednesday, May 12th from 9 to 6:30, and Saturday, May 15th from 9 a.m. to noon. There was a memo in our package from Cindy and Tara. I think it laid out some good stuff.
It did.
Any questions or comments from the board on any of that?
Just one. Yep,
I was
sorry.
just going to say
Steve and then Rob.
thank you to Tara and Cindy for putting that together. I know we had discussed it at our last meeting, and they were able to accommodate that. So thank you to the clerk's office.
Yes.
Yeah, they're the ones doing all the work. We want to make sure it's easy for them. Well, not easy, but it's workable for them. How's that?
That they can handle it and make sure that they're managing it.
Correct.
Rob?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I just had and I think I know the answers, but somewhere in their letter, they talked about the reason for in-person voting, people want to put the ballot in the ballot box. And I guess that's just to clarify, they're talking about the ballot box inside town hall, not the one outside.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
So,
Excuse me.
yeah, this seems like a reasonable plan.
Okay. So if I can get a motion to approve the election timing and days as presented
So moved.
And I believe the warrant, Madam Chair.
and the warrant.
So moved.
So moved. I can get a second?
Second.
Second from Steve. Mignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Chair,
Aye.
and Greaves. Aye. That passes 4-0. And Michael, if now that we've approved this, is we can get this up for people as soon as possible. So it is made as public as quickly as possible for when people can vote
And I believe the board needs to come in and sign this
and
warrant.
sign this as well. Okay.
When do you want us to come in on that, Michael?
If you wouldn't mind coordinating with Diane,
Okay.
she's
She's
does all-
managing it this week.
She's that,
Perfect.
yeah, she's that person. So
Got it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
thank you.
We've done
Thank you,
that.
Diane.
We've done that. Moving down to approving the request for a parade permit from the Boston Athletic Association for the 125th Boston Marathon, scheduled to take place on Monday, October 11th. I have to say, it was nice to see that we're still getting the same number of numbers and the increase in funding that was in their information.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Michael.
no, I was going to say, generally, we don't get into this much detail, provide this much backup for the marathon before you approve the permit. But, this is obviously a very different year compared to previous years. And it did want to highlight the increase in funding that we were going to receive. It does make a difference.
So, Michael, I see two figures. One that was highlighted that said 2021 was scheduled to increase to that specific number. And then so is that the number we're looking at?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
The other
Thank
thing
you.
was just history, Joe, to show
Okay,
us
yeah,
how it has
what?
changed.
Yeah, I just realized that. Thank
You're welcome.
Okay.
You're welcome.
you. The light just went on.
That's okay. Good. And so, Michael, if you don't know this, we can ask Susan at our next meeting when she's with us. I believe we said that people who had numbers last year, if they want them, will have numbers again this year.
I would want to double
Check with
that,
Susan.
Yolanda,
Okay,
'cause I
so
know
before
had
we discuss
discussions.
that, we'll have that with Susan at our next meeting.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see they were still giving us the same number of numbers,
Yeah.
even though the total field is going down. So, okay. So if I
Yes.
can get,
Just a
go ahead.
question or
Yep.
just, this is
October
gonna be
11th.
October. So, we're in a situation where we have no idea what the world's going to be like. Are we, maybe we're hoping it's going to be good, but I'm just wondering in terms of this, what our thinking is for the spectators throughout Ashland and what we may be thinking about what we may need to do or not do to ensure public safety of people, such as, making sure they're not too crowded close together. I know TJ's loves to have this huge event, and all that kind of stuff. That would seem to be more our kind of, I'm sure the BAA is looking very carefully at runner safety and their employees and stuff. But we should be thinking about what we may need to do or not need to do, given the situation for spectators at that point.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very fluid situation, Rob. As if it trends the way it is right now, social gathering outdoors could change dramatically, and there may not be very many prohibitions at that point. But who knows? You're right.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
what
we should just be prepared to think about that and perhaps,
I
have people
think
do
what was good, Rob, in the information we got from the BAA, they talked about, some of this is going to happen if the state reaches phase 4. So they are already putting plans in place. There will be no corrals in
Right.
Hopkinton. They're
No,
saying
that-
that the
yeah, their
participants
plans
are
seem
getting
to-
off the bus and going right through to run.
Yeah.
So they themselves are doing a lot of work to make sure people are safe. And I think we have to continue working with them and as well as with Chief Alfano and with our COVID task force to monitor this as we get there in October and see what's required.
Yeah, I agree. But that part of it is on us. The spectators in Ashland is on us.
Yep. Well, it's certainly factored into the safety planning. I can't tell you how many meetings our emergency management, our emergency departments, and DPW and public health actually have with the organizers of the Boston Marathon, as well as the other towns.
On a regular marathon, let alone.
Yeah, on a regular marathon, and utilize MEMA as the headquarters. I definitely know that public health is going to be part of that discussion, more so this year than others.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure that the Board of Health and Sergeant Berman, who is COVID task superintendent, as I call him, will make sure that we're all working on the same page, and that the protocol will be followed as needed. But time is of the essence.
Yep.
We say October. That's not too far away, believe it or not.
No,
let's enjoy our summer.
Well, no, I believe yes, absolutely.
But yeah, there's not much time. Okay, if I can get a motion to approve the parade permit for the Boston Athletic Association for Monday, October 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so move from Steve and a second from Joe. Mignani?
Aye.
Mitchell?
Aye.
Shear?
Aye.
And Greaves, aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you. Last thing in our old and new business, appoint members of the Select Board to a subcommittee to work on restrictions for Valentine property. So for those watching and listening, at our board retreat on April 10th, we were able to have a good discussion about the need for conservation restrictions for various properties here in town. Valentine being one of the ones that I think is a little most public, and I think a lot of people are concerned about in regards to moving projects forward there. So it was determined that here at the Select Board, we're going to create a subcommittee of 2 members who will be on the restriction working group for Valentine property. Also moving forward, we are going to look at recreating our restriction working group. So I'll start with, if you are watching and listening and you are interested in volunteering to be on our full restriction working group, go ahead and submit a talent blank form. The subcommittee is going to be 2 members of the Select Board. They will work with the current Valentine committee, as well as pull in people who are necessary to create the restrictions that are required for that Valentine property. So on that note, do I have anyone who would like to put themselves forward for being on this subcommittee? Steve? And I know Brandy can't be here, but she did say she was interested.
Well, I was going to nominate her anyway because
she wasn't here.
Because she's not here, you were going to nominate?
Yes.
Happens when you miss a meeting. Yeah.
That's what happens.
Okay.
I support these 2 for the subcommittee, but I do want to talk a little bit about the process.
So let's do
we're
this.
talking
Let's appoint the subcommittee, and then we can discuss a little bit about the process. So
Sure.
can I get a motion to appoint Steve Mitchell and Brandy Kinsman as a subcommittee for the restrictions for the Valentine property?
So moved.
Okay, and a second. Great. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Joe. Mignani?
Aye.
Mitchell?
Aye.
Shear?
Aye.
And Greaves, aye. Okay, Rob, thoughts?
Yeah, so we've been kind of wrestling actually with weeks and months about what's going to happen with the committee. So, and I know we talked about it at our retreat. I guess, I'm hoping that in terms of the Valentine committee, we would move ahead to reconstitute the committee, or, and not just have a restriction working group, or, did we decide that we're going to do the restrictions first and then have a committee? I guess I'm just kind of wondering why we don't appoint a committee or reconstitute it. Or
so the approach that I'm looking at is that we have a committee. And I believe they still have one more presentation that they're looking to give us.
Correct.
And
All right.
I don't know, for me, I don't know that we need to appoint new people to the vacancies in that committee to then work with our subcommittee. I think the group that's there has worked well together, and I think they have a lot of history. So for me, I would recommend keeping the committee the way it is right now with its current members and let them work with the restriction group to do the restriction and then to, move the process forward. And that they would then include people from in the community that have ideas to work with them rather than having to appoint people to the committee. But that's me. I don't know how other people feel. Steve?
So Rob, I would just, from my perspective, serving on this subcommittee, what would be important to me is to draw in as broad-based a group of residents, taxpayers, that have an interest in the future of this property, number one. And then number two is to create a set of restrictions that are as broadly based relative to what, again, the taxpayers would like to see used at that property in the legal umbrella that we're required to do so. So that to me is the thrust of what my interest is at this point.
Yeah, but how do you feel about adding other people to the Valentine Committee, Steve?
I'm going to defer until we hear from the Valentine Committee. I assume we're going to hear from them at our next meeting. And, I certainly would want to hear from them as part of our restrictions subcommittee. But I want to hear from them before I make that determination whether we need to reconstitute them or do anything different at this point.
Okay. Joe?
I have to agree with Steve. I want to hear from them first and hear what they have to say, see if they want to expand the committee or not, and make the decision after we speak with them.
Okay.
So I'm good with that. Thank you.
Okay.
I would just, point out that we have had these discussions for some time, and the committee is down at least 2 members, as I recall. So I think it's, I'll go along with if folks want to put this off, but I think, we're kind of being a bit unusual here in terms of not just appointing members to replace them and have them move on and work. But if people, if the most of the board feels that we should just move on with the subcommittee and meet with them, but I think we should just I'll go along with that, but I think we should keep in mind that we probably need a strong working group for the Valentine estate development, whatever happens in the future. And we should think about, we had people some time ago try to, apply to get on the committee, and we haven't taken any action. So I think we do need to resolve that whole question, and the sooner the better.
Okay.
Rob, just on your point with respect to that, usually other committees, when they have vacancies, will ask the board to fill the vacancies. We haven't heard from this group yet.
Yeah,
So
we
until-
haven't. We haven't, and there's been a number of reasons for that. Number one, I think what makes this committee in its situation a little different is that they have basically completed their charge that the board had issued them. The last thing outstanding is to deliver that report, that recommendation to the board. So at that point, the charge that they are currently tasked with will have been completed. And I think that is an inflection point that, a natural inflection point where this board can decide whether or not, to continue with that or reconstitute it. I think the board members or the committee members are interested in participating in some way, shape, or form moving forward. I know that they're a pretty tight group, or they've become a pretty tight group, and they've been working on this for over a year now. And I think it's not like something like the Open Space and Recreation Committee that has an ongoing purpose, I guess you could say. So those are, and I'm part of the committee. I won't be for long, but I think I'm just speaking as a committee member right now.
Well, I would just say that this as an ongoing project, I think it needs a committee, and we should move and appoint somebody. So we should reconstitute it, and as sooner the better. And I think at least one of the committee, we talked to them like, a month or two ago about the future, and some of them did say, at least one said that we should reconstitute the committee and appoint new members and get going. So, but I'll leave it to you folks in the subcommittee, but I would say we should revisit this soon and have a strong committee working.
So just to clarify, the subcommittee really is not, dedicated to reconstituting the.
No, I understand.
We're just focused on creating that document.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Okay, moving down to priority projects updates. Rail Transit District.
So rail transit district.
Rail transit.
So the first thing with UGC, just want to let you know that there was a cap on peer review fees, and we're bumping up onto that. So I just want to let you know, I don't think it's going to be a large expense, but it's something that I will probably have to find a way to manage. But that's okay. We still have a traffic study that we need to do. So far, those hearings have been going well in terms of good dialogue back and forth. There's been some, pushback towards UGC on some aspects of their plan, and they've been accommodating. I think that's important. The other two things are really related to the Trolley Brook Trail. I was waiting to see if Rob was like,
woke up or
So first is, as I had mentioned earlier, to basically get this completed the way it's been designed, meaning the Trolley Brook Trail, we'll need to go onto the YMCA's property. And so we're seeking an easement from the YMCA for that. And the first step happened today. Jen met with Rick McPherson and a subcommittee who are supportive of the idea, and will bring that to the full YMCA board for their decision. So hopefully that will go smoothly.
I hope so.
The last thing is there are a number of encroachments on our property on the Magunko side, which we're going to need to address. By we, I mean myself, probably Jen. Currently some companies are using large swaths of our property on Magunko Road.
I'll come with you.
Okay. I might need you to come with me.
That's why I'm coming with you.
Michael, is this stuff that has happened over the years before it was our property and we didn't review it before we took it, or is this new stuff, or don't we know?
I think this is long-standing stuff. I know in one case, I know it's not been intended at all. I think it's just one of those natural encroachments that happen.
Right, they don't realize where the property line is, so they've just sort of.
Exactly. The other, I think, is a little bit more formal, is the word I would use. So.
Okay, well, let us know, and let us know what needs to happen so that gets cleaned up sooner rather than later.
All right, Joe and I will go down.
And I know one specific area that you're talking about.
Yes. So that is it with the Rail Transit District.
Okay, downtown.
Downtown, so we had a walkthrough with the utilities earlier this week. Went through some of, just putting, we had to change some of the utility plans a little bit, so we were just putting eyes on the ground with regards to that. We have started the license application process with the MBTA going under the tracks, and that's moving forward, I'm happy to say. Sometimes that's where we hit roadblocks and other operations and aspects in government. They've been very willing to work with us. We had incorporated signalization at Maine and Union Street, 135, as part of this process. working with Mike Duca to, make sure that that meets his standards, his approval. He's, very.
He
takes that
manages
job
all
very,
that,
very
yeah.
serious. Yeah, he takes it very seriously. So,
Oh.
and so that's really it related to the downtown project.
Okay.
I believe I did mention at the last meeting, we were successful in getting a $300,000 shared streets grant.
Yeah.
So publics, should we move to public safety?
Yep, public safety.
Okay. So they're continuing to do site work. I think this week they're bringing in a crusher, a couple crushers to crush a lot of the rock, create some crusher run. The main topic of interest, I think, for everybody, including those on the committee, is blasting. We have expanded our notification and survey radius to include a couple of new properties. It's 17 and 23 Union.
Right.
And then there's a house on Waverly. We were successful today in getting in touch with 17 Union. But we were not with 23. And so we want to get that survey done. And just to remind everybody, the board and people that are watching, as part of this survey, it's not just the blaster. Vertex, our project manager, we insisted on this, actually goes along with them to help document this, so we have an objective set of eyes on the surveys. They would like
and working with the fire department and planning and stuff. And
yes, they have the permit from the fire department, which they hope to achieve this week.
Okay.
They would like to start on May the 3rd, I believe, is what I had. Maybe May 5th is a Wednesday. I think Monday, May 3rd is what.
Okay. That was the 5th.
and notifications will go through the schools so that they can send it out to their, for the high
Yes.
schools, so that they can send it out to their families so that they're aware. And
We will have notifications, the standard notifications, and then we'll also do additional notification as well. So you'll hear the blast sirens and things like that. Steve, I don't know if you ended up putting those videos of another site that's being blasted up on the public safety building website.
I haven't yet. I was waiting until we get a little bit closer to the time of blasting, and they just, originally we thought it was going to be the middle of May. Is that correct, Joe? I think they were anticipating the middle of May.
That's correct.
Everything seems to be a little bit ahead of schedule right now, which is not a bad thing. But we had at our last public safety building meeting, our owner's manager showed us 2 videos of blasting at a recent construction job that they're on, I think in Pawtucket, not Pawtucket, somewhere in Massachusetts. They showed blasting literally next to a building. And it was pretty amazing how contained and controlled this was. And, I guess the point is, it's not like blasting in the old days with somebody standing there with a plunger trying to
wire.
But it was, I think anybody that saw this video would have an appreciation for modern blasting techniques. And, I know they're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks of blasting, and they're only doing 2 blasts a day because they have to dig out the rock and remove it, and then they'll move on to another area and do this. So it's a process.
Yeah, it's a long process, but they need to do it and do it right. There's no second chances when you blast.
And I think that relative to the schools, I know they've been in contact with the high school, obviously, but these are going to be timed during the off hours when there's no school traffic going on.
okay,
Right.
good.
Yeah, we made sure of that, Yolanda, because that was one of the concerns that I had, especially if kids were walking home from school and they're doing a blast around 2:15, 2:30.
Yeah.
You don't want that happening.
Yeah.
Well, and just when the kids are in the school to hear it, and they need to be aware, having had someone in the high school when they were blasting for the fields. So
They might not even hear it in the schools.
Okay.
Yeah. Yolanda, the new technique that they're using and the type of rubber mats that they have, like Steve said, when we saw those videos, it was absolutely incredible. I mean, and these blasts will be a lot larger than the ones that we're going to be doing. So,
Okay.
but just to see the way that responded and how it worked, it was pretty incredible. I was impressed.
Yeah, and I would say that the fire department is all over this. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you know, both the chief and lieutenant are, you know, they are they're super concerned about blasting and making sure that everything complies with state law and their oversight.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, the transparency of the whole thing is that the blasting company went out and did their survey, and they're going to call back saying, no, you're not supposed to. You have to have our people with you. And so they said, oh, no, our bad. We just wanted to get it started and get a head start. So they're doing a survey all over again. All the residents were informed again. And so they appreciated that.
Good.
So
that's good.
We've got a lot of good cooperation going on right now with the neighbors.
Right.
Okay.
One thing, just a little history. Bill Key, Dave Teller, and I were on a committee working with Senator Dave Magnani back in 1990 to improve the legislation for blasting after the incident in Ashland.
Yeah.
So some of those state requirements you're talking about go back to Ashland as putting those in place. The one thing I would note that, and it's actually good that I think that there's really no buildings close by, because this blasting often causes cracks in foundations. And I'm not sure how you would prevent that, no matter how good your safety, but I think it seems like, you know, there's no structures that close, which is, I think, good.
So we're working on it, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think one thing we've noted through different projects is that it might not be real close, but because of how it's being blasted, the bedrock can hit, you know, can
keep
go out.
moving.
So we need to be
Vibration of the
aware and
bedrock,
let people
right.
know in the area so that if something does happen, they're aware.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Mendez update, anything?
I don't have Mendez up, any real update. on Mendez.
I have one thing for the board. So we received an email regarding the removal of some signs.
Oh.
And in the email, it was not clear because there was two signs in the picture. It was not clear which signs they were referring to. But I did find out that the sign that notes that it's Apicella Park was removed 2017 in 2017 due to damage. The Apicella Sign Park, that sign was removed due to damage, and that is sitting next to the Mendez building. So I think they were going to send reply to the email sender that was found, that they found that information. In regards to the second sign, which is CP funds at work, CPC funds, I believe at some point, and I don't have record of this, and I haven't had a chance to check with the CPC committee. I think at one point they had put those signs up and then they removed them all after a certain number of years. So it was not done because of everything that's going on now. They were all removed previously to even before the vote. So I just wanted to let you know that we had found that out.
Yeah, so it wasn't like it was removed 2 years ago in anticipation of the Mendez project.
Correct.
And I should also say that no town staff were involved, at least in that decision.
Right.
Can't say that for the school department, so.
Right. So,
And I think the CPA signs go back to when Beth Rosenblum was on the committee, and she's been gone at least a couple years at this point. So
yeah,
I think she was the one that spearheaded that.
And they were.
And I think they were just removed throughout the town. You don't see any of them anywhere at this point. So
They were all around the town. You're correct.
right. They weren't just at that project. They were at a lot of projects, and then they all got removed. So I just wanted to let you know that.
It is unfortunate that we had to spend, I mean, it wasn't an exorbitant amount of time, but you know, it was certainly amount of staff time to kind of go through this and, you know, basically
time, energy, and effort.
Something, yeah, prove
Right.
something that really didn't need to be proven. So,
Okay, moving on, Warren District and Valentine Estate. I know Warren I think we've talked about this at another select board meeting, but we did talk about this in our retreat, that we've decided that we're going to put the barn and the work on the barn on a back burner at this point because of the cost and everything else. So if this is the first people have heard about it, know that it will still look to get done. Just at this point, it's being put on a back burner. And Valentine, I think, will be coming to us at some point, Michael.
yes, so we're looking either at 5/5 or 5/19. 5/19 looks to be the best date for most everybody.
Okay.
And works for everybody, and it might not work for one person, but if that's the case, it won't work for them on the 5th either.
Okay.
So with regards to the Warren District, just have an update on the Hall House.
Okay.
Paul Gustafson, he is actually doing plans up for the board to look at and review. These are, I reviewed them preliminary, just like some drawings. I personally had a couple of issues with them, and I referred him back to what members of the Ashland Historical Society had approved before, and said that is would be the best way to go. So hopefully those new drawings will reflect that, and we can move forward with that project. That's completed. So that's all I have on that.
Okay, great. Moving down to town manager's report. Take us through this, Michael.
So COVID, I really want to first I'll just say in terms of cases, we saw a little bit of an increase last week. That is starting to go down again, just a slight bump. Ed and our team and Diane and the rest of the Board of Health, along with a coalition of a number of communities, like 5 other communities, have done just a remarkable job putting together this clinic. They were administering, I believe, 1,500 doses last week. Because they successfully administered that, we got another 1,500 doses. Looks
Nice.
like all of those appointments are being filled up. It's getting to the point where, in terms of Ashland residents, we're having a hard time finding Ashland residents to fill the appointments. So we're having to do. Mark, do I need to put you on a list, Mark? Sorry.
Still waiting for the homebound.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
But again, can't speak enough for the work that they've been doing, vaccinating people. So excellent. I don't have the percentages. I usually have the percentages of people who are vaccinated. I don't have that right now, but I can send it along after the meeting, either tomorrow or Friday, to give you an idea of what's happening.
Okay.
Just Michael, question on the vaccination. So is it open to any Ashland resident now? Or,
Yes, over the age of 16.
Okay.
Correct.
So, yeah, people should sign up.
Yes, please do.
So,
Please do.
Michael, question. I mean, if it's only 16 and over, are we thinking that kids aren't going to be getting this vaccine?
You know,
I mean, I know they say that kids can't get it as easily, but we've seen that some kids have had it and have certainly been transmitting it. And I would think at some point, they'd want everyone vaccinated, right?
I would hope so, Yolanda. I believe most of that, the age restriction is tied to testing.
Okay.
And these vaccines having to go through certain trials before on younger kids, where they're allowed to be marketed.
Makes sense.
But yes, kids are definitely getting it. Kids under the age of 16.
Okay.
Next one is the biggie. I guess we can talk about. So I provided later this afternoon an updated general fund budget that Brittany had provided after we had a conversation earlier today with a number of officials. It wasn't a conversation; it was more of a lecture. About the use of American Rescue Plan funds and what we can use it for. So just to reiterate what I had included in my email, even though we had favorable numbers from Keefe Tech and also insurance, the GIC. Favorable meaning they were a little bit better than what we had anticipated. We still found ourselves with like a $350,000 gap. I have put in the budget using American Rescue Plan funds to fill that gap for this year. And those would be the unrestricted funds that are supposedly going to be at 5.2 million. That will give us a bridge as we develop a longer term plan for these funds. I think that's going to be my recommendation. I believe the board would support that, just understanding that we're going to have a long-term plan because this is a structural deficit that needs to be filled.
So Michael, this goes, as I'm just double checking, that transferring in from the stabilization fund, you're sticking with your 900,000. And then instead of trying to cut places, you're recommending we make up that gap with the American Rescue Plan funding.
Yes, I mean, we have already made some cuts,
Okay.
at least on the municipal side. I am hoping to talk to Jim a little bit tomorrow and just kind of see what his thinking is. And, it shouldn't be any more than that. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Hopefully that will help. The bigger issue is actually with our trash enterprise fund. And Rob, I know this is something that our trash contract is something that you are especially interested in. So we have a situation where we have a deficit. People are not buying bags as much, which is great. It means that they're recycling more. The problem is that we're not receiving as much revenue through bag fees, and we're paying more in terms of disposal fees because the recycling rate is so much higher. So that's kind of the problem, one of the problems that we face. We have about $700,000 in retained earnings. We have about a $315,000 deficit this year. So what we can do is we can kick this trash can down the road another year and and eat into that retained earnings again. Or we can look at fixing the whole problem or part of the problem. So Brittany and Doug are going to recommend raising the base fee a bit. They're putting together a whole package of why that makes sense in comparison to pounds. I know we're all a little averse to that, including myself. But it might be something that we have to look at.
Michael, I just have one question. I know there are certain staff members that we do part of their salary against those enterprise funds. Has that been reviewed to make sure that that still makes sense as we look at this deficit?
Yes, and the two people on trash are Dave Miller, who runs our trash program.
Okay.
And then Frank, who was working on a composting program, which would
only part of Frank's salary.
Exactly.
Right, our sustainability coordinator. Okay.
Exactly.
I just wanted to double check because I know that's something that gets brought up. So okay.
It does get brought up. It's a good question.
But I thought most of Frank was covered under the aggregation contract.
It is. A very small amount, if any anymore, is under the solid waste, Rob.
Okay.
Yeah, most of it is covered through the aggregation program and that adder, that operational adder.
Okay.
It's actually worked exactly the way we thought it would in terms of him bringing in grant money and all kinds of stuff that was over and above what the ratepayers would pay in terms of that, I think 1/10% adder. But going back to trash, we're also bumping up against the end of our contract. We negotiated a very, very favorable contract last time. So we're in contact with Waste Management and looking at the potential for an extension. And we could utilize that extension to maybe minimize some of the cost increases that could come down the road. Or if we don't feel comfortable with where we are with waste management, we could go out to bid and roll the dice.
Oh,
You know, in terms of wholesale changes to the trash program, one of the things that waste management has brought up is going to every other week recycling, which I didn't think I'm not a fan of. I don't think Doug's a fan of. I'm not necessarily sure anybody else would be a fan of that. They would use the current green carts would be used for recycling. And then they would get like an automated cart system for the trash in addition to the bags. I don't know if you want to take something like that on right now in terms of implementing a new program, but.
So it would be every other week, Michael, that they would pick up. So how would that be automated? It would just, I don't understand that aspect.
The truck pulls up to the side of it and, you know.
Oh, the automated aspect of
so
the
just
vehicle
like,
itself. Okay.
just like we have the automated.
Right.
For the
No, that's okay. I thought they were talking about automated pickup style. Okay, no, I get it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Michael, but it's for both trash and recycle every other week.
No, trash would still be every week.
Oh, that's it. What's the rationale for that?
That people would generate more trash and refuse than they would recycling.
Yeah, I think it would just be opposite.
I was going to say, I would say
Yeah.
that's
We
definitely the
generate
opposite.
exactly the opposite, more recycle than we do trash.
Yeah.
Well, our tipping fees still say that Ashland generates more trash than recycling.
Interesting.
Really?
It's
Well, you know, I don't.
it's
If it's
definitely
just
changed.
recycling, if it's just recycling, I don't know. Maybe that's, not a bad thing to consider. I don't know. There were some times when every other week would be a problem, but there's many times that it wouldn't be. So I don't, I think it's worth thinking about. Is this something the sustainability committee can work with maybe Dave on, or, I don't know, who's going to take on kind of reviewing the pros and cons of this contract besides you, Michael? I mean,
Well,
is there a committee or?
before it's been myself. Well, it was when I was the assistant town manager and the DPW director and Dave.
No, the DPW.
And before that, I'm pretty sure select board members were very involved in the original contracts and deciding on the pay as you go, that whole thing. There was someone.
Yeah, the whole pay as you throw program was a major change, a major operational change.
Yeah.
I believe the select board needed to be involved with that because I believe it was actually not an enterprise fund at the time. And believe it might have actually been under the Board of Health at the time.
Oh,
sanitation traditionally was.
That it used to be a Board of Health issue. I guess my point would be it's become kind of a sustainability recycling issue, and I would suggest that I know the sustainability committee is looking at a number of projects that are related to this. So maybe they're a good mechanism for this kind of renewal. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, I think it would be good to get their input, Rob, for sure, and just kind of see what they're thinking of and what their thoughts are.
Yeah, especially if we're going to ask people to change their lifestyle or put up with, recycling every 2 weeks, and it needs to be a bit of a campaign, I would think.
Well, and I still want to reiterate the fact that even with these options, it's going to be necessary at some point in the very near future to raise fees. It's something that.
Yeah, I just had a question about it. So you related that to the bag purchases or the reduction in purchasing?
Yes, that's part of the contributing factor.
Due to COVID-19, presumably?
No, it's just that people are recycling more. I mean, we're still disposing more trash than recycling. But
I thought there was a relationship to COVID-19 and therefore it was eligible for American Rescue Plan funding.
Are you pulling my leg now?
No, I'm serious. But it is, because, I mean, my thought is we should look at American Rescue Plan funding for at least short-term help on this if we think we've got issues with recycling.
That is, are you talking about to bridge this gap?
Yes. Yeah, and your current gap that you're talking about, I thought it was due to issues with economic activity. that could be related to COVID.
You know,
And the
Rob-
purpose is
Rob's getting creative.
No, this is-
replace lost revenue, which is another purpose.
it's Rob, this is the CFO when you're talking, and I
Yes,
like
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, yes.
But
think we
seriously,
can
I
make
mean, you've got 350 in there, but I would, look at this purpose as well. I mean, that's all, rather than before we go to a fee increase. Because
The other thing you need to think of too, Rob, the other thing you may need to think of too for all of us is that a little over 11 years ago, I shadowed a truck and followed it through town to a location out of town where it was emptied, completely emptied. And it wasn't a recycling location.
Oh, boy.
And it all went in and it all burned. And
Oh,
it
well,
But
was
was
hopefully
that
that's not
our
happening.
current carrier, Joe, or was that?
Certainly
a
was.
previous?
It
Really?
certainly was.
Was there
And
an
I still, and I
investigation?
will maintain that I still don't know how they separate trash from recycling when it goes in the same vehicle and it gets pushed right back in. I've been to Will Brader because that's where we used to destroy all our drug evidence. And we had to physically be in there and watch it get destroyed. And as that was happening, several trucks would come in and unload. And I asked the gentleman who was with me, I said, so this is how you do it. And there was this gigantic grate. It had to be 75 to 200 feet wide, 75 feet in length. And the furnace was right there. And they would dump everything in. And they were utilizing that steam generation to turn the turbines to generate electricity to go to North Grid, to go to
Ingrid, yeah.
yeah.
Well, hopefully that's not happening anymore.
Well,
Gonna
you
say,
know,
I
Rob,
would be careful in, if that's what happened 11 years ago. I mean,
I'm
if-
not saying
if-
that
if-
it's happening now.
well, but we just need to be careful in
No, I
regards to.
understand. I'm not saying it's happening now, but that was an observation that was made.
Well, we should keep an eye on it.
So we're gonna put together more information for the board before we ask,
Okay, that'd be
Yeah,
good.
we need an analysis of this so
Yeah.
we can,
Yeah.
just so you can see, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, so
Sure.
you're not necessarily shocked when you see this memo that
Okay.
comes forward. But other than that, everything is going well. I do want to talk a little bit about under this the American Rescue Plan and this call that I had today.
Yeah.
It was disappointing in that we didn't get that much more clarity. We did find out that May 10th is when Treasury should be issuing more guidance, especially related to the unrestricted funds, that 5.2 million that we're supposed to be getting. I know a lot of us have already spent that 5.2 million in our head in different ways. Certainly myself included. Most of that has been infrastructure related.
Me.
What we did find out is that you can only spend it on water, broadband, and sewer infrastructure.
Right.
Now, Treasury might modify that and broaden it, but we shall see. The other thing, though, is that we can also use it for emergency services, equipment. And so we're talking about ambulances, engines, things of that nature, which are certainly on our capital plan. So there could be a way that we strategically utilize these funds to do some of the other things that the community is thinking of doing in terms of projects. So that was really the main takeaways of that hour-long conversation.
Just a quick question, Michael. I thought one of the other purposes was replace lost revenue, or is that?
It is, and so I was speaking mostly just to the capital stuff. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, operationally, we can make this fit in a lot of different ways.
And I just had another question. You call this the unrestricted part of it, but I thought the chart you showed us last time, or maybe I saw it somewhere else, had all different buckets for it. Is it unrestricted but limited to these uses? And what about the school? I thought there was a lot of funding specifically for to bring schools back. Am I mistaken there?
No, so when I talk about the unrestricted funds, what I'm referring to is the direct aid to municipalities
Okay,
through a direct local payment, and then also what flows through the state. So that's, you know, it was supposed to go to county governments, but we don't have county governments in Massachusetts. So they apportion the county funds on a per population basis with the counties in each of those communities. There's a couple of counties that are still functioning. And
all right, and that's why you call it unrestricted, but it
That's why I
doesn't
call it
have to fit into,
unrestricted. There are
it doesn't
other
have to fit
buckets,
into
though.
these buckets that you're talking about.
There are a number of different buckets, specialized funds outside of this for homelessness, for schools, for different kinds of relief, obviously for public health. But those are outside that 5.2 million.
All right. So how is it, so you have 350 in the budget right now. Is that part of these buckets, or how does that work? Because you're showing it as revenue.
Yeah, the 350 would be coming out of the 5.2 million.
Okay, as what?
As a revenue source.
Oh, just that. So it doesn't have to be one of those buckets you're talking. Oh, to replace lost revenue. That's what it is, right? Okay.
Exactly.
So that's that bucket. So, you know, and forgive me if you're going to talk about this, but so water and sewer seems to be a current perennial need of ours. So are you thinking how to use that funding for water, sewer? I presume stormwater issues would fit into that.
I think we would have to, you know, if we had a combined system, yes, yeah, we definitely could do that.
Oh, so you think stormwater is specifically outside, or maybe we're waiting to hear if we can include it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm hopeful that on the 10th, when Treasury actually issues that guidance, it will be broadened quite a bit.
Okay.
But I have not talked to Doug about specific water and sewer projects yet.
Because I mean, you know where I'm getting at. We started this stormwater fund and we started charging people fees, but if we can get some help from this, then that could be very helpful, right? So
it does. It can certainly help. It can certainly help soften the landing as we bring our budget back in balance. So eventually we're going to need to find a way to fund our expenses utilizing recurring revenue and not one-time revenue funds. Yeah. But we can certainly we don't have to do that in a year. I mean, we were planning on doing this with the stabilization fund over a 3 or 4 year period. Now we have these additional funds that can help maybe extend that. And it's just, you know, think of it as an angle or a trajectory. And I always call it, you know, we had 1.2 million that we were going to use from the stabilization fund. If we had to make up that 1.2 million the following year, you know, that 1.2 million went away. You've got this cliff that you've got to make up, and it's going to come from gaps or tax increases. So if we can basically soften that cliff, lower the angle, and make it a little bit more palatable for everybody, I think that would be the benefit for, you know, the town as a whole.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Mike.
Go ahead.
Michael, how does this money that we're going to be receiving, how is it affected by the current funding policy that we have with the school?
We do not know that yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else related to the budget or the spreadsheet that Michael shared with us?
No,
okay.
It's good.
Moving on, Eversource update.
Yes, and so since we met last time, Attorney Winter and Eversource's attorneys presented their evidence at a hearing that was broadcast. I don't have too much more to say other than that. I think it'd be important to get a full briefing from Brian kind of on where things are at a future meeting. I think, you know, mostly they take this information under advisement. They could come back and ask us for more information, or they could, you know, we could file, just move on and file our final briefs.
Okay.
And then, again, they would move forward with that. But just want to give everybody if you didn't remember that, we had this
The
hearing.
hearing. I would say, Michael, when you think it's appropriate to bring Brian before us to give us an update, let's
Mhm.
plan that. If it's the next meeting or if it's later in May, then, let's do that when it's appropriate.
Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then, so this next agenda item, we, unfortunately, sometimes we're victims of our own success. We kind of do these initiatives, do these projects. We literally move on to the next one,
Right.
like right away before we, before we really kind of take stock sometimes and see exactly what we've done, what we've accomplished. And I think one of the things that falls firmly in that bucket or category are the solar projects that town meeting approved back in 2015. So we had one on the middle school, House Street landfill, and then we also had the carport. That was supposed to generate, from a financial perspective, a lot of savings. And then we also had, obviously, the clean energy production is very beneficial to the environment as well. So we're in year 3 of that. And I just wanted to show the board, I did send this out, but hopefully the public and this is on the financial end, just how much we're saving. So as you can see, this graph is the months of the year, running from November to October. So with the high school, we've generated $80,000, almost $80,000 in savings. That's a 612 kilowatt size project. The middle school, which is our smallest project at 221, we've achieved savings of 30,373. And then finally, the bigger one, 909 kilowatts. That's the House Street landfill. And that was the one where we needed a zoning change. And we actually saved in year 3 almost $100,000 from that. So just, that's, let's see, over $200,000 in savings for 1 year. And, it looks like it was a good investment and a good decision.
And Michael, are those savings based on actual electrical costs? So what we paid 1 year over the other? And
yes. So what they are is what we would have paid if we were paying the full load versus if we didn't have the net metering credits.
Nice.
So this is obviously in the summer months, we generate a lot more savings just because we're doing a lot more. But yeah, I think any questions about that? Any thoughts? It seems like a long time ago, but
it's nice to see the hard work that was put into place. We're actually seeing the savings and from the decisions that were made. So
it's good.
I'm very happy.
Any significant maintenance issues, Michael? And it's all revenue at this point? And
yeah, none that I'm aware of. And if it, other than maybe replacing a panel, that probably wouldn't come across my desk. I don't know of any major issues, any roof issues like at the middle school. Really, the biggest issue that we've had is with the House Street landfill and the screening, and making sure that the plants that they planted there stay alive. There's a couple that have died. They've already gone through and replaced a number of them, and we'll continue to make them do that over the 20-year lifespan of the contract.
So, Michael, are we getting any additional revenues from Amoresco, or is this it?
Believe we do have a pilot agreement, but I believe it's actually factored into the power purchase agreement.
Okay.
With Amoresco.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
Hey, Michael, just a question on something, if I could ask, that's kind of related to this. That's the community aggregation contract.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I had someone ask me if that was still 100% renewable portfolio. Is that our understanding still? I think we had a change in provider. Is that right? I'm trying to remember.
We did. So we boosted up our standard offering to, I want to say it was 50% Rec 1s. Is that what? certainly the better recs.
Yeah.
We were going to offer an optional 100% option, 100% green option. Unfortunately, we're having a hard time with DPU getting that through. So we're not the only community that's going through that.
So what does Rec 1 mean? Is that high quality renewable, and the rest is what, gas or other fossil generated, or?
So you have brown sources, which are, coal-fired plants, things of that nature that are generating electricity. And then you have these clean energy sources, and there are some that are better than others. So like the offering that we had before, it was green energy produced by Texas Wind. I believe that was the organization. And it wasn't necessarily true clean energy. What we're trying to offer now, I believe it's called Rec Ones.
Okay.
You know who's the
High
best
quality.
person to talk to about this is Rob Muhlenbeek.
Okay. Frank, I presume, must be up on it as well.
Frank knows all about it, but Rob certainly
okay.
was a proponent of that.
All right, so hopefully we'll get better and better at it. So.
Okay.
And
Last thing, parking issues at Wildwood. Michael?
So this was brought to my attention through, I believe it was a Facebook post, or actually I got a message from somebody on Facebook.
Well, we got an email.
Oh, we did get
an email.
Yes, this was before we got the email.
Oh,
yeah.
So we started addressing that right away. Just for those in the public who don't know, there were people that were actually parking on the grave sites, which,
oof.
That's
bad.
It's bad. People park along on the road at Wildwood all the time, but a lot of times what people are doing is they're parking up there to go view games that are happening at the athletic complex. So what we've done is we have made new signs that clearly state that it's for cemetery business only, and that any violators will be towed or ticketed. We've increased patrols up there, and Vin has said once the signs are up, which I believe they did go up today, to start writing tickets and towing cars. We're also looking at the possibility of closing off that entrance to the athletic complex with a fence and seeing exactly what that would cost, who actually needs to give permission to that. Is that the school committee, or would that be the select board? But it's something that we're taking seriously. So I apologize for anybody who had to kind of witness that. It's really unfortunate. And even if it was just carelessness, it's just not called for.
Well, one thing I know, is it feasible to maybe put a berm or some kind of curb near the graves to kind of demarcate so people don't kind of drift over there? I don't, maybe that shouldn't be necessary. I don't know.
They shouldn't be parking there for attending stuff at the high school.
Well, the other thing is people do pull over to visit graves as well. So I don't know, but just a thought.
What relationship does the school have with this scenario, Michael? It's clear right from the beginning when the fields were completed that this was an issue, and it's been a recurring issue. And it doesn't happen, obviously it doesn't happen every day, but it happens enough. And so what is the school's response to this, the school department or the school committee, in terms of assisting with this, with fixing this issue?
So they have been looped in now, and Officer Murray is now getting a schedule of events that are happening at the complex.
Oh, that's good.
And so we know if there's something happening there and know when to increase patrols based on that. So they've definitely been a partner in terms of finding a solution.
Yeah, and I think if like the coaches or the parents or various leaders talk about it, I think people will. I mean, it seems to me there might be circumstances with people with disabilities we should at least think about how to handle that. But because that's come up before.
Going through the woods there, Rob, has got to be just as hard, if not harder, than using the
This
The
handicap
Well,
creating
something to
parking-
think about
paths,
if you had,
some-
well, if you had real handicap parking with a good path that was reasonable, it might be something that's appropriate. That's
But
all.
they have accommodations for that at the high school.
Right,
Do
there
they? I
is
mean,
a,
to get to the
there's a-
softball field?
yeah,
Yes,
the
yes.
All
path
right.
is,
Well,
the
people
path
can
is
actually
handicap-
drive there and get through there pretty well.
Yes,
no, they can't
All right,
drive
I'm
to
not
the,
sure I've
No,
seen
they
it.
can't
they
drive.
can't drive to the softball field.
but they can be driven there. They have
There's a cart.
accommodations, a cart to take
A
people.
cart. Okay, well, if they do have accommodations, that's fine.
All right, and that's my report.
Great. Board
Thanks.
reports. Steve.
So just a couple of things tonight. Number one, just a reminder, Michael had, I think, mentioned this earlier about the warrant article, regarding downtown zoning modifications. There's a public hearing tomorrow night at the planning board specific to the downtown zoning changes. So anybody interested in that, that's tomorrow night, the 22nd at 7 p.m. And then the only other thing I have is, and I'm not going to get into it tonight, we have one more meeting before the election. I just want to make sure that we acknowledge people that are retiring from service to the community. And, they range in service from like 3.5 years to 15 years of service. So just want to make sure that we acknowledge those folks at our next meeting.
Sounds good. Okay. Joe?
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick comment regarding the cemetery. This issue has been going on for a number of years, and a former board member had brought it up several times.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that the police department is doing their due diligence as they should be. And with respect to tonight's meeting, I thought it was a very good meeting. I don't have anything to report other than the fact we're still working on summer concerts for the summer. And hopefully we'll have something for May.
Great.
So
Okay.
thank you.
Rob?
Oh, great, thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair, for those comments you made at the beginning about the Chauvin verdict and diversity, equity, inclusion. That was, I thought, well said. And
Thank you.
I do want to note we have a number of people of color running for election in this coming election. So I think that's a good trend. I do want to note tomorrow, I believe, is Earth Day, April 22nd. So
Yep.
of course it's very topical and what's going on with climate change. And we have our own on May 1st, our Clean Up Ashland, which I think we spoke a bit about earlier. But if people are interested, it's easy to get. I think it's greenupashland.org to
Yep.
sign up, and it's Saturday, May 1st. Wanted to say that. And I did want to, we had the volunteer breakfast, and boy, what a great event that was. I don't know if Yolanda, you were going to talk about that at all. It was great to
Go right
see
ahead.
everybody, at least on Zoom. And it's always a wonderful event. So I won't say much else about it, but it's, it's good to check in with everybody and hear what they're all doing. I did want to, we did get a letter from Eversource about the hardship assistance. And I guess I just wanted to bring that up. It's out, and I think they had a model letter from a public official. It wasn't clear to me if that was a mass mailing to residents. Just a quick summary. That was, that's something that I professionally work in, is fuel assistance. And so we have, of course, a number of people that need help with their energy, which of course is a basic human need. And I noted that the communication from Eversource noted that Ashland does have that need. And so I would just like to urge that we follow up with whatever measure, whether it's a letter from Yolanda's chair or Michael, or think about how to publicize that, both Eversource and community action agencies, and in our case, it would be SMOC, do have funds available to help people. So if people don't know about those resources, they are available. And the Eversource letter did make a good point that We've changed some of the eligibility guidelines, so you may be eligible where before you weren't. So we should, you know, just get that message out however we think it's appropriate to get out, or however we can help on that. So I don't know, Michael, you had a chance to think about that, or if anybody else has thoughts on that.
I have not yet.
Yeah, it came in earlier today. So I
Yeah.
think it's something that maybe, you know, Jennifer Wolfing can certainly get that information out to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'd be, you know, all be interested in helping if there's something the board can do to make sure that we can be helpful and supportive. I would think we would. So, I'm planning to go to climate resiliency workshop, or well, actually, I'm not sure what I'm doing. It's the same time as the housing forum. So, but I thought it was the Charles River Watershed Association. Their new director is very energetic. She used to work at the Sierra Club, and she's including us in our various climate issues. And this one is especially appropriate for us, I think, because it could have to do with, in our case, river flooding and stormwater systems. I would think be relevant. So I'm thinking about that. And I don't know. I think the rest of you've got that as well. So anyway, I think that's it for me. I'm hoping, oh, Michael, one last thing, you know, we had a good conversation about the paper road, and this is Upper Charles Trail stuff, and I'm hoping we can continue working on things like that. And also some of the folks, including Steve, did some good work at Voyagers Lane and President's Row and looking at that trail. So I hope we can get moving on that. I sent you
Yeah, we need to meet, I believe, with the trustees, Rob, with those two routes.
And you know, try to get a better trail map. I think I'm hoping, you know, we can get Peter or somebody in town government, you know, with some technical skills to help us in that. So
I don't know. I thought whoever drew those lines did a pretty good
that was
job.
Tony. That was Tony. Or maybe Joel, I don't know, but Tony keeps those maps. So
That was Tony.
Tony, yeah. So that'd be good. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Just a couple things. So the dog park is having a fundraiser on Saturday, May 8th, to help get funds toward the dog park. There's already raffle baskets that have been donated by a troop of Girl Scouts, and you can go to either their website or the Facebook page for that. Garden Club has their plant sale on May 8th, so be aware of that. Rob mentioned Green Up Ashland Blush Bouquet is having their second birthday, also on May 1st. The Candidates Forum is this coming Monday night and Tuesday night. Monday night are the Board of Health contested races and uncontested races, and Tuesday night are the school committee and the select board. So they're still accepting questions if you'd like to submit questions for that. I have to say, it's nice to see that things are opening up. Corner Spot has a nice schedule. There's stuff going on this weekend there. It's great to see things are starting to open and people are getting out. So I think, as you said, people are feeling safer now that they're vaccinated or almost all the way to vaccinated. So good. And that's all I have. If I can get another happy birthday to Mike sign.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. It's been very, very nice. Everybody's been very, very.
Aren't you pleased that you could spend your birthday with us this evening?
Yeah.
You know, Steve, there's no other group of people I'd rather spend.
I was going to say, be honest, which of us has not sat at a meeting on our birthday?
Right.
I've definitely sat at one or two meetings.
I've sat at mine. Yep.
You know,
the bigger thing is school vacation week.
That's true. It is school vacation week. Are you doing anything fun, Michael? Is Nora?
No. Well, besides their board meeting.
Wow.
No, actually,
I considered rescheduling it.
Good.
All right.
If I can get a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
So moved in a second.
Second at 10:05.
10:05. It's pretty good.
Mignani.
Aye.
Mitchell.
Aye.
Scherer.
Aye.
And Greaves. I thank you all for watching. As always, if you have any comments, make sure you reach out to us. Email us, selectboard@Ashland, Mass. When you can, if you can, go ahead and get vaccinated, wear your masks, and stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you out and about in the community. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And that closes the select board meeting. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.